A BetterHelp ad. Therapy isn't just for times of major challenge. It's a valuable tool for anyone wanting to improve their well-being. It can help you develop healthy coping skills, set boundaries, and support personal growth. BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a fully licensed therapist right from your phone. No commuting, no waiting rooms. And you can switch therapists at any time. Sign up at BetterHelp.com and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
構成不した Listening Keeping Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we will preview Best of a Super Junior 33 and cover all this news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network and Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts and newsletter over at socialsuplex.com. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. And we are streaming live right now on patreon.com/KI Strong Style. If you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, you can sign up at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. Young boy, how you doing, man?
I am, as you can see, I'm representing the green mat, the Exodus. Noah picked up this anniversary show in my time traveling in Japan. Jeremy, I don't know if you've ever been to the land of the rising sun, but it's beautiful. And if you've never been, you should definitely go out of your way, check it out. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I almost wore my my All Japan shirt today.
I do. I also have an All Japan shirt, which is it's black and this one's white. And obviously the black is a little more slimming. Therefore, it's a little more complimentary of my my figure, you know. Been you know, lately I've been up and down in terms of physical fitness. You know, I'll be doing really good for a while. I think what the biggest deciding factor for me when it comes to taking care of my own health is two things. Number one, am I taking the medications that are prescribed to me as I should? And believe it or not, it is not as easy to always remember to do that stuff because I just have a very busy schedule with my work and everything. But as long as I'm doing that, that helps me to keep things, you know, pretty balanced and able to accomplish my tasks. But the other thing is, did I meal prep on Sunday or Monday without the proper meal prep, you know, over the weekend? And it sucks because the deal is, you know, you got 2 days off, right? Plus, you know, Friday evening and then that's like family time. You're doing stuff and it's like, it doesn't seem like it should take a long time to do that sort of shit, but it's like, you got to make sure you take the stuff out, defrost it. Then after you've defrosted it, you got to like, you know, even though I am half white, I am also half Hispanic.
Got to season it.
You got to season it right, let it marinate, all that shit. And then, you know, provided you've done all this in the right time, you've got to like prep your, you know, your cookware and get it all made and yada, 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 and then store it and make sure everything is like regimented. And it's not hard. It's a time commitment. You know, if you're on a Sunday night with your wife and you guys got stuff going on, you know, that's the biggest thing that prevents me from like staying consistent. But doing pretty well right now. I've noticed that I've gained a little bit, but I'm working on making sure I get the steps in and making sure I get the workouts in, clanging and banging. Yeah. Rich Latta is here in the chat. He commented chappin'. If you know, you know. My birthday is coming up this weekend.
That's right, yeah.
You know, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Oh man. Jeremy, what's been going on with you, man? What's happened since we've had this hiatus from having to watch the Shinihan?
Well, it's Mother's Day weekend this past weekend. So
yeah, but you're not a mother.
I'm not, but it was my wife's first Mother's Day. So
that's special.
Yeah. And so
you guys do anything cool?
We went over to some family, had like a little brunch kind of get together thing, got her favorite flowers, breakfast in bed. She got to get a pedicure. So kind of checked off everything she wanted for the first Mother's Day.
Yeah, we've had some without naming any names, some individuals in our life that maybe you're not necessarily holding, some men not holding their end up of the bargain, just in general, friends and stuff like that. And as my wife likes to refer to them, broke ass men,
Yeah.
And she assured me yesterday I am not one such broke ass man. In fact, she said I am a bad bitch. So
well, that's good.
It sounds to me like you're holding up your end of the bargain, making things special for Jen. So that's awesome.
But yeah, it had that, and it was kind of a crazy weekend. It was my dad had his 65th birthday party. So celebrated him on Saturday. So Jones had some big outings this weekend. He had his 2-month shot, so he was cleared to start being around people. So
he eating protein yet? You got him on a regiment?
Yeah, it's formula, and formula.
I've got a friend of ours right now that was traveling with us last time we went to Chicago. Rich says his first cycle. Friend of the show, Jamie Spector. He's been on the show before. We need to get Jamie back on one of these days.
It's funny. He messaged us in a thread that we messaged him the first time he came on. It was episode 111. That's crazy.
Yeah, we need to bring young Stallion back, but he's in our chats asking us about which boat tour we did in Chicago, and I'm like, dog, I'm doing Keeping It Strong style right now. I don't. But that's a perfect segue to the fact that we will be in attendance for G1 Climax opening night in Chicago from the Now Arena in Hoffman Estates. And Jeremy, I have not yet bought the plane ticket, but I've been holding off until, Google says May 13th, ticket prices are going to start dropping, and we're on the precipice of that. So I'm hoping that this Strait of Hormuz, World War III, fucking, Operation Freedom or whatever it's called bullshit doesn't, interrupt. In fact, believe it or not, last time we were in Chicago, I had taken a flight. I think it was like American or United. Dan Coffin. Dan Coffin says May 19th.
Oh my god.
Oh man. I had taken a flight with like United, or actually it was American Airlines, and they canceled my flight in the middle of the night and then didn't give me an opportunity to like rebook. And I needed to be back home like ASAP. So I ended up buying a secondary ticket with Spirit. And then United ended up coming, but it was like I was gonna have to stay in Chicago like the rest of the day, fly out on a red eye, and basically get back in time like to work. And because there was like a layover with this ticket, it fucking sucked. So then American ended up coming through and they're like, oh, last minute, we can transfer, you can get on this flight. So I like called Spirit and I'm like, fuck, like I've got this other ticket. And they were like, hey, you're good. If you book within a year, we'll honor that ticket. Well, guess who just went out of fucking business, bro?
Spirit. Yep, I saw that.
So this free ticket voucher that I have is literally
null and void.
Yeah, it's worthless. So,
oh man.
But like I mentioned, my birthday's coming up, and every year my birthday coincides with the first few days of Super Juniors, one of my favorite tours, and I'm always unsure if it's if I want to treat it and see it as a gift because it's going to be such an awesome tournament, or if I'm dreading it as a punishment because it's a great tour, but it's a short tour in a very concise amount of time where we got to cover like 90 plus matches, not including undercards before Dominion, and then G1's just in August. So it's like,
yeah, it's going to be a busy next few months. And hey, don't worry about undercards. We're getting pretty much all tournament match shows.
That probably tells on me. I did take a look at like the tour in terms of the buildings, but I haven't looked at the actual tournament cards. So that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Rich says, where the flippers at?
And,
I don't know what he means.
The flips. Where the flips?
Yeah, we got some flippers in the tournament. So,
but
we're going to talk about that.
Speaking of Rich, he's commenting from the Rich Latta Pro Wrestling YouTube channel. So I'll give a plug to that. If you haven't known or noticed or been under a rock, Rich has launched the Rich Latta Pro Wrestling YouTube channel. This man is cranking out content pretty much every day. A lot of great concept on there. You got the hot takes. He's doing some Bret Hart wrestler scales. He's breaking down all the hot news that's coming out in the world of pro wrestling. So give that a subscription. Subscribe to that. Help him get his numbers up and check it out. He's doing some really good stuff over there.
I've been subscribed to his channel for a while, and I've watched a few of the videos, but I hadn't got around to I wasn't watching all of it in real time just because I've been busy. But I've kind of caught up on most of my podcasts, so I started going back and watching his shit in sequential order. Obviously, some of it's out of date because it's reacting in real time to what's going on. But I've really enjoyed it. It's sort of like a little bit of an extension of One Nation Radio. I am interested to see Rich's opinion on Caitlin Clark walking out with Morgan Wallen, whatever the dude's name is.
That's on the other channel.
Nah, he needs to put that on the RLPW. Stop running from this heat, But I think I got 15 more of his videos, and I watch him on 2x speed, so it's like you speed through that shit. Really good stuff. I'm the only thing I will say, I would like more video essays the way he did with the Shawn Michaels Bret Hart WrestleMania 12.
That was great.
The rest of the content is also top notch, but I really enjoyed that video, and I would like to see, let's get some Bryan Danielson, the Yes Movement retrospective. Let's get some Omega versus Okada series, retrospective. That's up my alley, and that's what I'm looking for out of RLPW.
Yeah, some great stuff. Check it out. A lot of great content up on his channel right now. Well, Josh, you ready to jump into this Shinihon?
Yeah, so this past week there was only one show. It was originally just called Road to in Katatsu. Is that the name of the city?
Karatatsu, is that how you say it?
Karatatsu, okay. And then they added a little panache to it and called it Ignition to Dominion. So I appreciate that, adding a little bit of flair. But it was advertised, and I'm sure they're not going to do false advertisement. I'm sure they're going to deliver on this. Maybe they already have. I haven't checked today because I watched this yesterday. But the show aired last Wednesday. We recorded Tuesday, so it was the next day. And I just was like, I know that there was a big main event with, some implications, but I really do enjoy my New Japan with the English commentary. I know some people are like, oh, the Japanese, I grew up on it. I don't know what the fuck they're saying. I understand they bring the energy, but I enjoy them filling in the storyline, story bit pieces, things I might have missed. And it was advertised that there would be English commentary on demand. And it's been almost a week and there's still no English commentary. So what the fuck's going on? I need my English commentary for, Ignition to Dominion.
I know, not top priority for Walker and Charleston over there.
They could, bro. All they got to do is call in the third string. I'm sure that like Mavs Gillis would be more than happy to, add some color. Call us.
Yeah, dude, I'll drop a track on there.
We'll make an appearance. A feature on the New Japan World. No big deal. But yeah, I mean, maybe I'm not one to talk because I'm still. Oh, Rich said, thank you for the kind words about the channel and shouting it out. And we are getting no kickbacks from this man. I've wondered about when we're going to get our cut of his success, because, well, bro, it's like those boxing contracts. This is something Rich joked to me is like, in boxing, you get a contract and it's like, your manager is going to continue to make like 5% of all downside sales of your pay-per-view and title fights. Like that's what Rich is signed to with Social Suplex. So yeah. But the last thing I was mentioning there though, is like, I'm not one to talk because I myself am still behind on my Patreon series, Tanahashi Ace of the Universe. We need to get the ball rolling back on that. I'm almost going to treat this almost like a second season of it at this point because there's such a long break, but I'm also not the third biggest, we're doing this for love of the game. This is not the third biggest wrestling company in the world with hundreds of thousands of subscribers on New Japan World. So all I'm going to say is, boys, I need my English commentary. Let's get it timely. Come on.
Yep, so we did have the Ignition to Dominion here, May 6th. Got a reported attendance of 757 fans. And show opened up. We had Sho and Kanemaru defeating Ryusuke Taguchi and Taisei Nakahara with the Boston Crab over Nakahara.
Yeah, most of the show, a lot of the juniors that are going to be featured in Best of the Super Juniors were featured on the show. Obviously, the junior champion Doki is not on this tour. He's also not going to be on Best Super Junior, so he's kind of taken himself out of the conversation for the time being. And Desperado and Mystico recently uplifted those junior tag team titles off of was it Ichiban Sweet Boys?
Yeah.
Who had just recently taken the title from Unbound Company. So those two teams were kind of like the ones running, that title picture. And now they've kind of been relieved of having to focus on that for the time being. Obviously Mystico is fucked off to Arena Mexico, whatever he's doing on Friday nights. So we got a lot of guys that are just, the titles in the junior division are just sort of a non-factor for the time being, and allows all of these guys to focus their efforts on super juniors. And most of them on this show are just really getting in reps and prepping for what's coming up the rest of the week. And we saw that here with, actually, I need to pull up the notes on the show. What was the opening match? I've actually got notes on the match, but I need to see the actual
so it's
match itself in front of me.
Sho and Kanemaru against Taguchi and Taisei Nakahara. So it's Sho got the Boston Crab in over Nakahara. So also Sho, Kanemaru, and Taguchi all in Best Super Junior 33. So giving a little momentum there to Sho heading into the tournament.
You still see underhanded tactics from the House of Torture guys, but when it's one of these openers, especially with a young lion who poses them no threat, they're going to cut corners, but the shenanigans is cut down immensely, and they almost get to flex some of their it reminds me of remember when Shawn Michaels wrestled 1 2 3 Kid on Raw and he got to pull out the big man power move set?
Yeah.
That's kind of what you get here. Like these guys are, they're apt to wrestle a little bit more with the guy who's not in their class. One thing that was notable, Taisei Nakahara did get hit with essentially it was a vertical suplex down the stretch, but they always call every single suplex a brainbuster. Yeah. But it was kind of close to a brainbuster. That was something that I thought Sho could have put him away with, especially since he's just recently debuted in the past few months, and he kicked out of that before he got finished. So I was impressed with a little bit of character growth there.
Yeah, Nakahara has been impressing me every outing. I feel like he's really had a lot of grit, a lot of fire. Drop kicks looking real good. And yeah, I thought he looked really good here in this opener against Shogun Kanemaru. Then following that, we had Master Wato, Toru Yano, and Yo defeating the Goto Revolutionary Army of Bishamon and Tatsuya Matsumoto. So you had Wato hitting his springboard uppercut on Matsumoto to get the win. So Wato, former Best of Super Junior winner, getting some momentum going into the tournament.
Yeah, as we can see here, an all Hantai affair. However, this Goto Revolutionary Army does serve somewhat as a subunit within Hantai, but this was primarily top to bottom, except for the main event. Your Road 2 of Road 2 shows,
Yeah.
And one thing, and Matsumoto's been using this for a little bit. I had called this out when he first wrestled that singles match with who's the guy from I don't know what's wrong with me. I forget names sometimes. The guy from AEW.
Oh,
Konosuke Takeshita. Yeah. So when he wrestled Takeshita, he broke out that suplex that I didn't know what to call it. And recently on commentary, it was referred to by Walker Stewart as a float over suplex. And I think that's as fitting a name as anything. So
you're talking about the double leg suplexing he does?
Yeah, where he gets him in the backdrop position and then he falls backwards. So he's calling that a float over suplex. I think that's as fitting a name as anything. So, continues to be a part of his staple offense. But, essentially, Wato, Yano, and Yo, they pick up the victory here. One last thing, post comments in the backstage for the previous match. I don't always pay attention to Taguchi, but his comments were fucking hilarious. Like, the camera started at his stomach and he's like, they kept attacking my behind and I don't know why they're so focused on me. What is it about me? And as the camera spanned out, he had his pants pulled down past his underwear and he's wearing the pink Speedos. Like, what? And then he started cursing in his comment. And I don't know what he was saying, but he was like, they kept attacking my burp. And I know you guys are going to bleep out the burp, but and then he was like, but if you think you're going to bleep and bleep my bleep and bleep, then I'm going to be a bleep. And I'm like, so yeah, really, really good stuff there.
So following that, we had El Desperado and Taichi defeating Shota Umino and Tomioka Hanma in 11 minutes and 26 seconds. Taichi getting the pin over Hanma. So like we mentioned, Despy, he's one half of the junior tag team champions. He's getting ready for Super Juniors. So his team gets to win here. But also we know that Taichi is going to have a match coming up at Dominion as well. So he got a little momentum heading into Dominion next month.
Yeah, and this is, again, the teaming of former Suzuki-gun team members in Taichi and El Desperado, who've recently kind of reconnected under the Hantai banner. But I could be wrong. I know they've wrestled in some multi-mans together, but this feels like the first time they've done a pure tag team match. So good to see those guys still on the same page, working together. If anything, this to me proved, just looking, and we've said it so many times again, but I'm going to keep saying it. The body composition of El Desperado next to these guys, especially Taichi, just tells me he should be a heavyweight at this point.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we need to, call Aaron Nova, bring the scale out, get this man Despy on the scale. Let's see what the kilograms are saying, because this man is not at the weight limit.
In the backstage comments, they noted the fact that they are teaming together once again and that, they're still gelling and they would like to pursue some sort of titles together. But then, Taichi was very much like, but you're a junior and I'm a heavyweight, so we need to figure out something in the middle. Maybe we can find a third man, go for those 6 man. So who knows? Maybe that's something down the road.
I don't know what Taichi's talking about. There's clearly the strong open weight tag team titles that would fit them perfectly. A heavy, a junior. All the guy do is go down to Mexico, find them Chavez brothers, and
yeah, I did check last week to see who the champions were, and it was the Chavez brothers. But since then, I almost was like, I need to check again because maybe I dreamt that I did that. I don't quite remember, but yeah. One last thing that I thought was a little bit interesting. So we've talked a little bit about how guys like Yuya, Taichi, they've sort of seemed like the odd man out last couple tours.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Taichi's sort of been floating. Obviously, he still has all of this cachet with the audience and is one of the best workers in the company, but they haven't found something compelling for him. Now, I'm not going to, you know, I don't know if you listen to We Work Stiff, but those guys are constantly doing headcanon to position Taichi into some point of relevancy in the company that never is going to occur. So I'm not going to go that far, but the interactions that he had with Shota in this match, I thought were very interesting, especially like the face off and then the interactions of the match. And then post match, there was this like show of respect between them, but it seemed a little bit like contentious. And then at the end of the match segment, Taichi, who was walking up as the victor, he like turned around and had this stoic look on his face and was facing out to the crowd. Now, this might not mean anything, but I'm trying to do better at reading the tea leaves and see if there's little teases. Now, I'm not saying they're going to belt up Taichi and give him a mega push or anything like that, but I am wondering if they've got some sort of short-term plan to put him in a meaningful singles position here in the near future.
Yeah, I feel like it's so hard to try and read the tea leaves with Taichi because I feel like he does stuff that, you think, you know, he's doing the whole like stare at the camera thing a lot last year. And it's like, this is, you know, it's building to something. There's going to be some story coming, and then nothing ever happened. And I think the problem is Taichi's just super interesting, super charismatic, great worker. You know, he resonates, and whatever he does is interesting. So you kind of want to see him do stuff, and I understand why. Yeah, you know, We Were Stiff and other fans are like, oh yeah, there's got to be something going on here. But I'm like, I don't know. It's hard for me to kind of like even start thinking in that direction based on how they book him.
Well, you know, sometimes I'm so fixated on the card in front of me and the matches and how I think that particular booking is going, and then obviously we view things through the framework of Ghetto's booking patterns and the way that the schedule is laid out and how we know certain things are gonna potentially unfold. I'm not always paying attention to the more minute storyline points that are teasing things. Part of it is what you just mentioned, that some guys are working their own angles and looking for stuff to create. But, you know, this recent run with Callum Newman, if you had been paying attention in November of last year, it started to become very apparent that there was something building. And that reminded me a lot of like when Sonata left LIJ. And if you were paying attention for a while prior to that, there was this building story element of what it was leading to. So I think it behooves us to try and unearth those things. I'm not going to do like a whole entire like soliloquy about, you know, the headcanon of stories, but I want to pay attention to that stuff. But like you said, you never know with Taichi whether he's just being interesting or if there is something actually happening.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting that he kind of had a featured match at Dominion doing that tag match with him and Yuya against Oiwa and Zach. And so I feel like that has to be leading to something. You know, he was very vocal in the post-match promos at the last show at Wrestling Dontaku. So I don't know, maybe there is something on the edge that's going to be happening with him this summer.
And it could be him continuing to compete in the tag team division. We know that is heating up extensively, and it's not the worst place in the world to be if you're on the card. So maybe this is, you know, any teases he's doing are really just feeding into future programs within that division.
Mm-hmm.
But even though Shota Umino has sort of circulated in that realm, the long-term projection for him is still singles, you know? And obviously he's facing off for the global title here at Dominion. So I am wondering if, I'm not saying they're setting up a program between them. I'm just wondering if there could potentially be a G1 match or some sort of singles interaction down the line, or or maybe Taichi has a story going into the, I don't know if they're calling it the Soul Tour this year again.
No, it looks like they're calling it Road to G1 Climax this year.
Okay. So, Road to G1 Climax, if they do the Eliminator tournament to, qualify, maybe that has been a story last couple of years for Taichi, and he, has failed, in the past. So maybe there's something there. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that'll be his focus again, and maybe he'll have to play in again, and that's his whole thing. He's trying to, stay close enough to, make the cut and get into the tournament again this year.
Yeah.
So following that, we had the TMDK team of Kosei Fujita and Roy Oiwa. They defeated Masatora Yasuda and Yu Uemura in 10 minutes and 34 seconds. Fujita using the Nemo special to get a submission victory on Yasuda. So we got Fujita here, who's getting ready to go into Best of the Super Junior, obviously last year's winner, and hoping to repeat and get another tournament win here. And he got the submission victory. And then Yuya, like we mentioned, is going to be involved in that tag match at Dominion, as well as Oiwa. And then Yasuda, is there trying to get some reps in.
Yeah, both of those two guys have a lot of similarities in terms of good looks. The belief from a lot of the fan base and pundits that either one of them could potentially, be a future ace of the company. All the same, while they've had good matches and they've ingratiated themselves to the audience, they're still not quite at that point where they have broken to where you want to say like they're a mainstream star within the company. Obviously, Yuya's been back quite a bit longer than Oiwa, and they wrestle not the exact same styles, but both very close, very wrestling centric, and that has been part of the ongoing issue between them. Is like Oiwa has called himself, it's a misquote because it's not exactly it, but basically the bigger and improved version of Yuya. But Yuya has had more accolades and more successes than Oiwa has. So it's like, on the one hand, it's hard for me to argue that Oiwa isn't in some ways an improved version of Yuya, but he doesn't have the success to really back up that claim just yet.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I guess Yuya, got to New Japan Cup Finals, but I feel like also you look at some of Yuya's stuff, he really hasn't had a ton of, big moments and accomplishments yet. So, I think this is a kind of a great rivalry for both these guys, as Yuya is somebody you kind of feel like maybe he should be doing more, and Oiwa's kind of, nipping at his heels and the class below him and wants to kind of lap him and get to that top spot. And so they have really good chemistry. I really enjoyed their segments in this match. Also, there was a lot of focus here on both of them, a lot of great exchanges there. It's also interesting seeing Oiwa and Vegeta team up together as well. So
considering their history that they were, they don't talk about that too much, but it is something worth noting that there's this embedded rivalry where they were each other's, consistent young lion rivals. And even within the group, there's a little bit of competitive nature in the fact that Zach originally had the option to choose either one of them to be the apprentice, and he specifically singled out Fujita. And it wasn't until he returned from excursion that Oiwa was welcomed in. So it's almost like Fujita has, a leg up on him, and he got started sooner, and he's had more success, even though they're in different divisions.
Yeah.
Last couple things here. Oiwa and Yuya with this a lot of arm focus from both guys, and I'm sure that is going to continue into the tag match that they have upcoming. Yasuda, I was impressed that Yasuda got placed into a single leg crab pretty deep at around the midpoint of the match. And he got dragged back out to the middle and Fujita cranked on it. And it seemed like the kind of thing that could have potentially ended the match early. And he fought through that pain and was eventually able to make it to the ropes. And then he went on a pretty big tear with a lot of his offense, and he did some things that I haven't seen from him before. Like he did the a Hurricane Rana, and he successfully landed the Three Amigos. So he's also being allowed to kind of branch out the same way that like Daiki Nagai's being allowed to introduce some new moves. I'm kind of wondering, obviously these guys are on the precipice in the very near future to potentially go on excursion, you know? There is this whole thing with Yasuda and Tiger Mask, and Tiger Mask is getting ready to retire. I do wonder, I know some people have talked about this speculatively about him potentially being, you know, the replacement for Tiger Mask. There is this kind of low-lying story where he's been seeking the approval and respect of Tiger Mask for many, many, many months. How do you think about this story, Jeremy? They're never going to do this, but this is a free one they could take. What if during this tour, Yasuda started adopting the maneuvers and mannerisms of not Tiger Mask 4, but the classical Sayama styling of wrestling, and started introducing that stuff in his young lion matches to get the attention of Tiger Mask? You know, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be great, especially I mean, if that's where they're going, like if he is going to become the next Tiger Mask, I think it's a great way to kind of, him start slowly rolling out some of the original kind of Tiger Mask moves, and even to start doing, you know, Tiger suplexes and Tiger drivers throughout the matches, especially when he's wrestling somebody like Nakahara, where he's kind of way more advanced. I think that'd be a cool, interesting story. I do wonder, though, if, you know, that the Tiger Mask mantle is that too big of a thing to put on somebody. And also, we don't know, you know, what Yasuda's going to turn out like. Obviously, still in his young lion phase, still very much learning, and also speculation of him maybe doing an excursion in Mexico, just kind of due to his background and some of the way he's wrestling right now. But is that Tiger Mask gimmicks, you know, is that important enough to where if it flops, like, does that look bad if he can't live up to that name?
Well, you know, when we get to the point where I've thought about this, I've been doing a little bit of research, nothing major, but, you know, I've been looking at the different Tiger Masks that exist, and there's a lot more than people probably realize. And I figured once we got closer to his retirement, then we can give like a full breakdown of like where we are in terms of generations and what that all means. But one thing that's interesting is nobody that's ever been formally, especially, you know, the guys that have stuck around in pro wrestling and had long tenures with the gimmick, nobody has ever been announced ahead of time as being Tiger Mask. It's always been something where they've donned the mask, and it's been a secret who they actually were, and they don't identify as their true identity until they eventually do unmask. Yamazaki's the only one who has worked his entire career as Tiger Mask up to this point. But what if they did one of two things? Because I know some people have said in the past, like, hey, you know, you have a guy, you build him as a young lion, they, you know, they're learning, they have these great facials, good looks or whatever, and then you're going to bring them back and you're going to put them under a mask. It kind of hampers or limits them. And like you said, there's a lot to live up to. But my suggestion is, what if they don't name him Tiger Mask yet? He's not ready for it. But when he wrestles, you know, they come to some sort of position where he ends up wrestling Tiger Mask. This is just me booking. And he wins. And Tiger Mask tells him, "You've earned my respect. Go to Mexico, and if you're successful when you come back, you're the next Tiger Mask." And so, like, it's known publicly well ahead of time that this guy Yasuda will be Tiger Mask, provided he, you know, goes through the gauntlet and he makes his way.
He has to pass the test. Yeah. And then at that point, you know what? What if it doesn't work out? Well, you know, that's always the case with everything in life. But you know, we love Koji Kanemoto. And he wasn't a bad Tiger Mask, but he was, of the major ones, the least successful. And that didn't hurt him in any way long term, you know? So it's like, if it doesn't work out, you could always just unmask the guy and later on give the gimmick to somebody else. That's true. And also, like you've been pointing out, current Tiger Mask, you know, compared to other Tiger Masks, has not been, you know, the greatest, you know, in-ring worker and, you know, stellar title runs or anything like that, even though he was pushed super hard. So, and, you know, Yasuda's looking good. He looked really good in this match, especially as he kind of introduces some more of the lucha aspects to his game. So, yeah, you know, if he ends up going to Mexico and kills it, I mean, it could be a great thing to, you know, launch him when he comes back. You know, we've been seeing lately some guys coming back, KOB and guys like that, where they're kind of getting this great gimmick and kind of being pushed to the moon. And so if you can get that Tiger Mask gimmick and come back and really own it, like that could be the perfect thing for him to establish himself.
Yeah, and I mean, the reason I say that is because the movesets and the history of what Tiger Mask is, the gimmick itself, and then if you incorporate the movements of someone like Sayama, it spells success in terms of like merch sales and recognition, and you have a built-in composite of a match that is going to pop the crowd, get over, and everything like that. So it's like, I think they'd kind of be dumb to not try and pass the gimmick on to somebody. It's not like the Liger thing where there's only one Liger. This is something where it's like there's already been so many of these guys. Let's keep the tradition going, and let's keep selling, toys and masks and making the fans happy.
Yeah. So we'll see what they end up doing there for Yasuda. Following that, we had Aaron Wolf, Boltin Oleg, and Tiger Mask defeating the Halatour team of Dick Togo, Ren Narita, and Yujiro Takahashi in 840. You had Aaron Wolf getting a triangle choke on Dick Togo towards the end here to get the submission victory for Hantai. And also this is continuing to build Aaron Wolf taking on Ren Narita for the Never title at Dominion. And a little bit of fallout from when Boltin challenged Narita as well.
Yeah, I thought the way they portrayed Aaron Wolf and Oleg Boltin as a power team together.
Yeah.
And they were like sort of no-selling some of the offense of, the Junior House Torture guys. I thought that was pretty cool. There's been like fan speculation about like, what if those guys team up in the future and try to make a run for like the tag team titles against KOB? How could that reinvigorate things? All that star power. Mm-hmm. And I've sort of just thought that's people talking as fans, but the more they're starting to team together, I'm like, oh, what if, World Tag League run? That could be fucking cool.
Yeah, and Charlton has been kind of dropping kind of similar things on commentary. Like, yeah, it's so cool seeing them teaming up. What if they, win a tag run? So yeah, maybe they are, laying the seeds. This is maybe one of the areas here where things are happening kind of behind the scenes and you're not paying attention to it. And yeah, maybe they are just kind of building this, amateur wrestling, judo guy tag team and have these guys go into World Tag League and just destroy a block.
While Wolf and House Torture is still continuing for the time being, so pleasant to not have to see him go opposite Don Fale in these matches. That was nice.
Yeah.
I did think it was funny, the finish where, you mentioned he got the triangle choke, but how it occurred is Dick Togo had bumped into the ref, and the ref did the old Tommy Young Ric Flair thing where he pushed him.
Yeah.
and then he fell into the triangle choke. He got tapped out. So I thought that shit was pretty funny. Post-match, there was a big attack from House of Torture, and Ren Narita really took it to Oleg Boltin on the ramp with the chair, which that was interesting because it's like you're not even feuding with this guy anymore. You're, it almost screamed to me like he's kind of scared of Aaron Wolf because, he had an opportunity to go for him, but he went after a guy that's, all taped up, has injuries and stuff.
Yeah, and we did get the news that came out that Boltin sustained injury to his left elbow on this show and will be out of action as a result of that, with a return date still to be determined. So I don't know if that was just because of the angle or if Bolton's just really hurt or he's just taking this tour off. I don't know, but seems like at least for the next month or so, we will not be seeing Boltin Oleg in action.
I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but it would make sense if he was working hurt and then they did that angle to kind of write him off. And, that's a very New Japan thing to do.
Yeah.
In the backstage, Aaron Wolf started to cut a promo on Narita. Narita attacked him with the push-up bar, told him to shut his mouth, and basically said, like, I beat you in a few minutes, earlier this year. You think you're going to come back to this title, blah, 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 blah. So, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Then semi-main event, we had United Empire, Francesco Akira, Great Okan Hanare, Jacob Austin Young, and Zane J, defeating the Unbound Company team of Daiki Nagai, Gato, the Knockout Brothers, and Taiji Ishimori, with Jacob Austin Young hitting the Bite the Dust DDT on Gato. So several different things happening here. You got Akira, Jacob Austin Young getting ready for Super Juniors, as well as Daiki Nagai and Taiji Ishimori. And then they were also building to the Knockout Brothers and Great Okan and Hanare.
Yeah, a lot of previews here. Enjoyed the stuff between, the combatants for the IWGP Tag Team title.
Yeah.
That was kind of the highlight here. Of the matches on the evening, I thought that the TMDK Hantai match with Oiwa and Yuya was actually very good. And then this match was probably just a smidge better. Again, Unbound Company and United Empire showing that right now in New Japan, when it comes to these multi-mans, especially 10-mans, they sort of have they've cornered the market on having really entertaining, fluid, very, mixed up in styles. There was a lot of crowd brawling, a lot of high flying. Like these guys all really gel together, and it's really good. And then, Daiki Nagai, we talked about last week, he broke out the flying headbutt, but I don't think, and he's been doing it a little bit lately, but we haven't mentioned the corner drop kick a la Kenta that he's adopted. And obviously Shibata is not active, and he's in AEW. Kenta is in Noah. Mm-hmm. Nobody else here is doing it, and he's killing it with that move.
Yeah, that's been looking really great. And yeah, overall, he's been doing the big monkey flip thing too as well. So he's been doing a lot more in his arsenal, and I think it's gonna be exciting to see what he's gonna do in Super Juniors. Like you mentioned, I love seeing Hanare and Yuto Ice mix it up. There was a big focus on them with their strike exchanges, and they looked really good as well. And yeah, this match had a lot of energy. Zane J, he's been doing kind of the AJ Styles kind of combo. I think he's been looking really good. He kind of does his own kind of twist on it, where he kind of does the backward kind of jump thing and then the drop down with the drop kick. And so he's been looking really good. He's kind of coming into his own as well. A little bit of shame that he's not in the tournament, even though I know he's kind of leaning more heavyweight. I think it would have been good to see him mix up in there as well. But yeah, I think he's progressing really well.
Yeah, some of these other generation guys start to retire. Some of their repertoire is, it's on the table. According to Taz, unless you call Taz and ask him if you can use whatever maneuver it is, Tazplex, Tazlock, whatever. Yeah, but there's a few better that you could steal from than AJ Styles.
Yeah. So this match, continuing that United Empire Unbound rivalry and building up to Super Juniors and the Dominion Tag Title match. So yeah, I thought it was really good. Lots of energy here. Lots of good action.
A lot of post-match brawling, like you mentioned, between Hanare and Yuto Ice, but it's kind of becoming apparent to me that that's just what Yuto Ice is gonna. If he doesn't like you and you got heat with him, he's just gonna fucking brawl you at the end of every match, like he's prime era Makabe.
Yeah. That led us to the main event, which had big implications for Dominion, and this was laid out at the end of Wrestling Dontaku, where Newman said if one of Shingo or Tsuji could pin him, that they would get a shot at Dominion. If they lost, they could never challenge him while he was champion. And surprise, surprise, we had the Unbound Company team get the win here. Shingo Takagi and Yota Tsuji, with Tsuji hitting the Gene Blast on Newman to get the victory over Newman and Jake Lee. And that obviously sets up Yota Tsuji for the rematch at Dominion that I think we all kind of saw coming.
Last week, we gave a pretty extensive rundown of our thoughts about the creative behind this stipulation and how they arrived at this match. So I won't do that again. If you missed it, last week's episode is good to check that out. With that being said, like you mentioned, we pretty much assumed this was the way that they were going to use the creative to get Tsuji back in contention right after taking two big title losses on major shows back to back. I didn't think that, like I mentioned earlier, I thought that a couple of the tag matches on this show were a little bit better. Mm-hmm. I wasn't blown away by this tag match. It was serviceable for what it was. I'm sure, again, every match was worked very much for, a road to crowd, and that's what this was. Mm-hmm. But it was fairly formulaic, fairly slow, the Jake Lee of it all and his shenanigans.
We had a T-shirt Shingo for a large part of the match as well.
Yeah, and you know, United Empire in their big matches, they're focusing on the ribs and the abs of these guys with big like knees and other types of kicks and strikes to the rib section. I was like, is he wearing the T-shirt because he believes it's going to cushion a little bit, like a little bit of an armor? But he did get de-shirted by the end of it, but he was all taped up, and I'm like, oh yeah, even this guy, you know, think about the kayfabe of it. It's like Shingo or Tsuji could find themselves in Dominion's main event, and Shingo came out there with the T-shirt on, and I'm like, well, do you want a rematch for the title or not?
He knew the finish.
Well, I have to believe that him and Tsuji were backstage and they played rock paper scissors to, you know, either that or Tsuji pulled rank. You know, I've talked about how the last tour he looked a little bit big brothered by Shingo, and you know, I'm sure he put his foot down, was like, all right, bro, you had your fucking shot. You failed. It's time for me to get my belt back. Are you going to do this for me or what? You know,
You going to do it?
it's like the second ever elimination chamber when, you know, Goldberg was in there and Randy Orton and Triple H had Randy Orton like help him to win the title.
Yeah.
Randy Orton wasn't even trying to earn the title himself. Like, that's Shingo at this point.
Yeah, but this match was, just kind of there. The first part was a lot of heat on Shingo, like you mentioned, working over the midsection, giant killer knee. They're cutting the ring off from Tsuji. Then there was a hot tag of Tsuji, but then he got cut off pretty quickly. They got the heat on Tsuji. Shingo came back in, and then eventually Tsuji came back in, took over there, got the Gene Blast towards the end.
Yeah, that time when they tagged Shingo back in pretty quickly, I thought about, you know, sometimes I can't turn even though I'm not really a pro wrestler, I think about some of the layout stuff and the you know, they talk about the psychology of it all. And I was like, yeah, how did this guy like power back up and be ready just from tagging out? And I'm like, well, maybe it's sort of the impression that like you had a little bit of a breather, right? Not enough to fully recover. You get tagged back in and the other guy's on the defensive, and you sort of have to put on a brave face and just like power through, even though you're not fully recuperated. That's what I have to kind of, that's the sort of thing I was thinking about in this match instead of focusing on the actual in-ring action. And it's the sort of headcanon I had to create in my own head to basically cover for the fact that like Shingo shouldn't have realistically been ready for that, you know, to tag right back in and take over.
Yeah, I mean, for a second, I kind of figured Tsuji was going to win, but for a second, I'm like, oh, is Shingo? Or are they going back? Because, they had the immediate him coming back.
Right back in.
Yeah, I was like, oh, he's going to come right back in and kind of clean house here. But, yeah, eventually got the tag back to Tsuji, and Tsuji got the win there.
And down the tail stretch, what I noticed was they were doing their best to keep Jake Lee off the apron and keep Callum Newman in the ring. And, you know, if you're Callum Newman and you're the champion and you made this stipulation, I know you don't want to come off like a bitch, but you probably should have done your best to just not be the legal man in the ring, because if you take the pinfall, you're gonna, you know, whatever. Like Jake Lee could have easily won this match, and them like in kayfabe like served their purpose of like attaining what they wanted, but instead, like a dummy, this man's in the ring and he gets isolated. And there was one point where Tsuji and Shingo, they were in there together, and like always, the referee's not doing the 5 count to push one of them out. He's just letting them for minutes at a time, just everybody stay in the ring because it's a New Japan tag team match. But they're double teaming Callum, and right before they do it, they did this like, they didn't talk, but they did like some hand maneuvers, and Shingo's like, "Is it you?" And Tsuji's like points himself. He's like, "Yeah, it's me." And like they actually agreed in that moment for Shingo to help him win the title in the midst of the match. Like that was the one thing I picked up on. And Callum got hit with 2 Gene Blasts in this one to put him away.
Yeah. So that was the main event there, setting up Tsuji to now be able to challenge Callum Newman at Dominion, which led into the Dominion press conference that happened over the weekend, and Dominion matches being officially announced. So like we mentioned earlier, we got Taichi and Yuya Uemura taking on Roy Oiwa and Zack Sabre Jr. There will be the NJPW World Television title on the line as the Alpha Konosuke Takeshita defends against Sonata. Never openweight title match, Ren Narita defends against Aaron Wolf. IWGP Tag title match, Knockout Brothers defend against Great Okan and Hinare. The IWGP Global Heavyweight title match, three-way match, Andrade El Idolo defending against Drilla Maloney and Shota Umino. And then the main event, IWGP Heavyweight title match, Callum Newman will defend against Yota Tsuji. So pretty much all these matches were kind of already laid out at Wrestling Dontaku, but all made official here.
Yeah, there's nothing here that was surprising to me at all, but that's okay because I've liked the direction that they've been heading, and they did a really good job, setting up a lot of angles and previews at the end of the last tour to really telegraph what this card was going to be. So it's not a surprise whatsoever. I did watch the press conference or parts of it. Essentially, it was just a preview for the Never title and the IWGP title, but they did hold it. I forget what the name of the park was, but it was outdoors with a fairly large crowd. And I thought that was indicative of the fact that this is going to be treated like a fairly large show, that it's going to be on national television and everything like that. And Aaron Wolf, he did a promo. They didn't have English subtitles for this event. And I know sometimes they hold off on that, but they still haven't produced them. So I didn't get to hear what he had to say, but he was attacked on stage by Ren Narita. Mm-hmm. And, so Ren Narita got kind of like a visual of attacking him, but it wasn't like he took Aaron Wolf out. Aaron Wolf still wound up like kind of fighting him off and cutting a promo on the audience, but they seem to be pretty excited about that match. And then they did another, a preview for Newman and Tsuji. And I did listen to, obviously I understood the English part of it. Callum at the end of the last show cut a really great promo on Tsuji about how he's so proud to be Tsuji's final opponent. He's like, not because he's going to be retiring, but because when I get him in Osaka Joe Hall, I'm going to fucking murder him. This man is going to die. And I really liked that. But he ended up also attacking Tsuji.
Yeah, low blow.
He low blowed him and then put his foot on his face and got the visual of holding the belt up. And it wasn't too different from some of the talking we've seen him do during these press conferences before. But it was entertaining nonetheless.
Yeah, and from what I understand, these two matches will be the ones that are really highlighted on the broadcast version of the show. Kind of like for Wrestle Kingdom, it was really the top three matches. So it seems like these two matches will be the two key focuses of the broadcast. And we had a question here from Def Triangle 720. Looking at this year's Dominion card so far versus last year's, do you think it's an upgrade or downgrade?
Well, we can go through this real quick. So you got Goto, Shingo in the main event. We got Tsuji and Callum this year.
I don't know. I think it's pretty close. I really love the first Tsuji Callum, and so I think they could do magic again. But Goto and Shingo, they've always had great chemistry. I thought that match last year was great, so I think that's kind of even.
I think the difference here is we all believe that Tsuji's probably regaining the title, whereas when Goto had that first title reign, every single title match felt like he could drop the belt.
Yeah.
So I was questionable, like, would Shingo beat him? In the semi-main event, you got Gabe Kidd and Yota Tsuji. That was the rematch from the first match they had earlier that year. And, we got this three-way with Andrade, Drilla, and Shota.
Yeah, I think I'd probably take the Gabe Tsuji match as a quote-unquote better one. Obviously, there was a better build, a bigger story behind it. The match was not as good as the New Beginning in Osaka match, but it was still a very good match. So I think on that end, I would probably go with the last year's global title match.
I would generally agree. I think the only area where this match might exceed is two things. Number one, big star in Andrade just being on the card in the first place. So there's that. Mm-hmm. And then there's the novelty of this being a triple threat match, which is fairly rare in New Japan. And you do have, even if the build hasn't been as good, there's not as, the rivalry that Tsuji and Kid had, you get a little bit extra talent on the show. So you get to see kind of more guys work together and it's a big opportunity. So I do agree with you, but I think there is some upside in this match.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to bag the match. I think it's going to be a great match, and I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking there.
Evil and Finley, they had a dog collar match, and we're going to be seeing Ren Narita and Aaron Wolf.
Yeah,
House of Torturism.
So we'll get the Torturism, no dog collar, but I'm sure we'll get wrenches and push-up bars and garrote wires. I mean, I guess I'd probably take the Evil Finley match. I'm total opposite.
You're
going Wolf and Narita?
Yeah, why were you going to say you're taking the other one?
I just feel like they're just not doing anything compelling with Wolf and this whole House of Torture stuff, and Narita has just really regressed and has not been entertaining. But again, I'm also the Finley and Evil thing. I mean, it was fine for being a dog collar match, but also still had a lot of shenanigans and stuff there as well. So,
on paper, I would agree, but I am so caught up in the intrigue of this potentially being another coronation on a big event for Aaron Wolf. And for that reason, as bad as the House of Torturism stuff has been, and I personally, I think Ren Narita, even though there are things to criticize, I've enjoyed some of his, when he does wrestle, I've enjoyed the leg work that he's kind of incorporated lately. But yeah, I totally understand why you would say that. But I'm just like, we're going to see Aaron Wolf throw a bunch of motherfuckers around and then get a gold belt around his waist in front of a packed crowd. That's where I'm like, I kind of take that over, the Bullet Club Civil War shit.
Yeah. And I noticed you went House of Torture, but if you look at just title for title, so this year...
it's Knockout Brothers.
Well, Never title last year was Bolton versus Takeshita, and so Narita versus Wolf. So do you compare the Never title matches against each other?
Well, you know what? Actually, you're right, because that is what we will be doing, because I messed up. It's Knockout Brothers versus United Empire opposite of the dog collar match. And I think in that case, it's pretty open and shut that I would prefer the IWGP tag team title match.
Yeah. And then even if you look at the tag title match.
It is. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, let's say, so last year you had Taichi and Ishii against Okan and Newman in the tag title spot. And I think, KOB against Okan and Hanare would probably end up being a better match than that.
I don't know. Those, every time that Taichi and Ishii teamed up and turned, they fucking killed it last year.
Yeah.
They just didn't team often enough. But obviously, with the run that KOB is on, it's hard to not just get stoked about their matches. And so I did make that mistake. So you're right. It would actually be never. They're in the same spot. Never title versus never title. I think it really comes down to, on paper, obviously Oleg Boltin versus Konosuke Takeshita, bigger star power in a certain sense from a international insider wrestling thing with Takeshita. And obviously on paper, the much better match, but you're still kind of putting that up against the moment of Aaron Wolf, basically beating this dude.
Yeah.
And then, at that point, the last match that you can kind of compare, it's Taichi and Yuya versus Oiwa and Zack. That's been pretty well built. And then that would basically go head to head with that tag team title match that we talked about earlier between Okan and Newman and Ishii and Taichi.
Yeah, I'd probably, I don't know, I might lean a little bit more towards Ishii and Taichi just because of how great they were last year, and that match was really rocked last year. But again, I think, also with Taichi and Zack and their history, and then what's been bubbling around with Uemura and Oiwa, I think that it's a recipe for a great matchup.
I think here's the biggest difference. I think what we have highlighted is that while last year's show wasn't by any, there were some low points, there were some really high points with Dominion. And from a work rate perspective, there's a chance it might actually still be the better show than what we're about to see. But the difference is the booking is better right now. You have a lot more fresh young talent that are kind of getting opportunities. That wasn't the case last year so much. And then bigger profile. They'll probably sell more tickets. They're going to be on national cable. And, you know, there's the whole Tsuji and Wolf double coronation, just like they did in the Tokyo Dome. So it's like, in a certain sense, there's more, you know, production and hype behind this one.
Yeah. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the card. And I think that also you'll fill it out. You know, hopefully we'll get, you know, the Super Junior, championship match and maybe a junior tag title match and some other matches here. And it could end up being a really good card. And next question from Dark Soldier. He says, why is Shota getting a global title match? He didn't win shit. To beat Yujiro? I think my brother has beaten Yujiro. I think Pussy Destroyer has beaten Yujiro. Why is he getting another title match? And I'm not being a negative Nancy. I've turned the corner on Shota this year back to positive. But why do we keep putting Shooter in these positions where he looks bad?
Well, I don't think he looks bad. Just, you know, he's not going to win this title. If he does win this title, I will be very much perplexed. In fact, I guess it's too early for our predictions, but it's like, if I don't think he's winning the title, then that probably means I think Drilla is gonna beat Umino, because like you mentioned last week, Andrade's probably not there to take a pinfall.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't, again, I think Drilla and Umino are I think they're kind of even footing booking wise, where I wouldn't be surprised if either guy won. It does kind of feel like Drilla has a little bit more momentum, kind of some of the War Dragon stuff and some of the stuff they've been doing with him in singles. And obviously he's kind of fresh off the return of his bicep tear. But I feel like Umino is a guy where he's kind of been spinning in a circle. He hasn't really, had a really big moment yet. He hasn't won any titles or won any tournaments. And so I think here's a good opportunity to, do something with the guy and give him the white belt run and see what happens.
Well, I still believe he's winning the G1. So because I think he's winning the G1 and the story is that's his first major success, now I'm going to go for the title. I don't think it makes sense to put the global belt on him. Plus it doesn't fit with the narrative I've got spinning where it's like, he's going to win the G1 as the white belt champion. Like that's not going to work. So for those reasons, I think he does need to lose this match. And yeah, I get it. Some people may be looking at this like, okay, he's failing. But I believe personally that is the story, that he keeps trying, he keeps pushing, and he keeps failing, but getting closer and closer and closer. And I think that is eventually going to build up to, how, satisfying that final moment will be when he finally does achieve, one of these major victories. And I think if you put the global title on him now, it diminishes that story because it's not the success it needs to be.
Yeah. Well, if the plan is definitely him winning G1, then I said, yeah, definitely you go with Drilla or Andrade retaining the title here. So, but also I think it's clear that, yeah, Andrade is not here to lose. So I would put the belt on Drilla. And I think Drilla's a guy that he just signed a new contract for this year. He end up staying. I think you reward him for that and give him a little run and continue to elevate him.
That's the other reason. Yeah, I agree with that because it's like, but I do see how he might, this Dark Soldier might be upset about this because it's like, Umino had an impressive New Japan Cup, but he didn't win it. Got knocked out in the quarterfinals. Then he only had one singles match since then, which was a title against Takeshita, which was also kind of undeserved. Since then, he's been in just a lot of multi-mans, nothing else of note, and except for that tag team with Takeshita. But he hasn't really. It's not like he's on a run where he's like running through everybody in those undercards. Yeah, so I can kind of see it.
On the show that he challenged, he lost in that tag match with Hanma, so they did not really do a great job of setting him up here. They could have had him and Hanma face some young lions, get a win, or they could have found somebody else on the roster for him to get a win over. to at least give him a little bit more credibility going into challenging for this thing.
Yeah, I know we don't always take Gedo to task, and part of it's because there's been just so many perplexing bookings over the past couple of years, but sometimes they do really great with the creative, and then sometimes they get a little bit lazy and they rely on that trope where, hey, if you're of a certain stature, you just come out, you challenge for the belt, and that's your thing. And yeah, they might be resting on that a little bit too much with this one, because I think he's right. Like, what has this guy? In fact, what has Drilla really done? He hasn't even been on tour for a while. So it's like, what did either of them really do to earn that shot?
They were smart enough to walk out. That's what they did.
They walked out. And if that's all it takes for you is someone to call their shot, then that's probably more than enough to like this. But if you're someone like, the ratings matter, I want to see the rankings, the AEW win-loss record rankings. This is something where you're like, yeah, what the fuck did they do to get in contention?
Maybe we should start voting for who gets in these title matches.
All the same, fucking Tsuji's about to get a world title shot, and he just dropped both belts back to back.
Well, at least he pinned Newman.
Yeah, at least he did something.
Yeah. All right, well, now let's jump into Best of the Super Junior 33. So the tournament's going to be kicking off this coming Thursday, May 14th, concluding June 7th in Ota City General Gymnasium. And I know the last time, Josh, that we had talked about Super Juniors, we were unsure if it was just going to be A block winner versus B block winner, or if they were doing a semi-final format. And I can confirm that they are doing a semi-final format. So we will have the top two from each block advancing to G Messy Gunma on June 5th. And I'm assuming it's going to be A1 versus B2 and B1 versus A2. They did not make that clear on the website, but that's normally what they do when they're doing a semi-final format. So I think that's what we got here as we lay this tournament out, a semifinal of the A1 winner, the top A block competitor taking on the runner-up in the B block, and the winner of the B block taking on the runner-up in the A block. So we can start off, we'll go through every competitor in both blocks and kind of talk about their tournament history and their chances of winning the tournament. So we'll start off here in the A block, and we will start off with Young Lion, Daiki Nagai, making his debut entry for the tournament. And Daiki coming in as a last-minute replacement for Doki. So Doki, after winning his last title defense, say he was boycotting the tournament, so he's out of there. And then Daiki Nagai made his plea to President Tanahashi to get into the tournament. So here he is in his first tournament, and we had a question here from Few Shoulder 2780. How do you think Daiki Nagai will do in his block, and do you think they will have him graduate from Young Lion status like they did with Bolton Oleg and Kevin Knight?
Well, he's already on the precipice of barely even being a Young Lion. They've got him in biker shorts. He's in a group. He's got, some signature maneuvers, and they've really allowed him to even alter his facial hair and everything like that. So he's got all of the signs pointing to, I'm barely a Young Lion. I'm ready probably for an excursion or some sort of graduation. Do I think it's going to come immediately at the end of this tournament? Maybe. But I could also see it being something a little bit later in the year as well.
Yeah, I guess it just really depends on, was this planned or not? And I know we've been kind of speculating, what's going on with Doki. Is there some kind of injury, or why are they kind of protecting him in some moments like this? So if this was a kind of a last minute thing, maybe it's not the graduation, or if this was the plan all along, maybe it is. And maybe night one, he'll walk out, new music, new gear, and pull an upset or something like that.
Yeah, here's the thing with that though, is like, if he graduates on night one, then you need to expect for him to be pushed in an actual meaningful way. If they do the thing where it's like Hanare or Oleg Boltin, where they like quote unquote graduated, but they didn't go on an excursion and they're not treated immediately as fully made, they're still kind of in this in-between phase. I don't think that's to his benefit to start off the tournament that way, unless you're planning to push him, I would much rather any sort of graduation he winds up doing more closely coincide with like, hey, we're going to push you. And I don't know that they're planning to do that today.
Yeah, unfortunately for Daiki, I think he's going to be, I'll see the pin eater in this block. Maybe looking at the block, trying to see. Honestly, I don't even really see, maybe he can beat Taguchi. But outside of that, he's probably going to go 0-9.
I don't know, man. It's best of the Super Juniors, and there's always surprises. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's more common for something like this. If a young lion beats somebody, it's going to be like an old timer,
Mm-hmm.
And there's not that kind of individual. Like, we don't have a Geto in this block that he can easily beat the way Hiromu did that one time. But I remember back in the early G1s where Tanahashi was basically a young lion, and he pinned former multiple time champion and ace Kensuke Sasaki with a German suplex roll up. And it was like 2 minutes in the match. It was just a huge surprise. And I wouldn't doubt it if Daiki Nagai pulled an upset like that over someone unexpected. Like, I don't know. What if he beat Francesco Akira?
That could be intriguing, especially with how Unbound and United Empire have been feuding, and Daiki's feud with Zane J. He could pull an upset like that. Maybe Valiente Jr. is potentially a guy he could beat as well.
Yeah, because he's fairly low on, even though he's very impressive, he's fairly low on the totem pole. That's not the highest of stakes, and he's clearly we're jumping the gun a little bit, but he's in the same block as Teton, and Teton is main eventer from CMLL who's going to be given some deference, so he's probably going to be not too far off from Daiki Nagai in terms of the status and pecking order.
Yeah. Is there a big match here for Daiki Nagai that you're really looking forward to?
I am looking forward to him being in the tournament. I don't know that there is anything I look at on paper and just say, wow, I am excited for that. And that's not to say that there aren't good matchups, but with him, I just don't see that one surefire thing that's going to stand out. I think one running theme of this review is the fact, and I'm not going to repeat it, but I just want it to be known, I am interested in Jun Kasai versus everybody in the block because the stylistic matchup is so, what the fuck is this going to look like? But that's the only one that's like intriguing to me, and that's more out of curiosity.
Yeah, I think for me, him with Teton, I think is going to be interesting, and also Daiki Nagai is kind of a little bit of lucha influence, being around, LIJ guys. And I think obviously Teton's incredible and can have a great match with anybody. So I think seeing him mix it up with a guy like Teton and seeing how he handles that kind of match and layout, I think could be very fun.
Yeah, I think we're both looking forward to seeing him be put in new environments, styles, and situations that we're not used to seeing him in, to see how he reacts to it.
Yeah. So next in the A block, we got the Japanese Young Punk, last year's winner, Kosei Fujita, his third consecutive. Like I mentioned, he was the 2025 winner.
One last thing I wanted to say about Daiki Nagai. I don't anticipate him being anyone that's in play to win this tournament, but that idea that they mentioned earlier about like, what if he graduates jumping into the tournament? There's nobody in the block that could benefit more from, like, if you wanted to like do something fresh and like exciting and make a guy, have him win the block.
Yeah, or even, the semifinal.
Or make it to the finals or something.
Yeah, with the semifinal format, that opens up the door for getting somebody else in from the A block. And yeah, why not give him a run, have him be the A2, and obviously he can lose the B1, but that would be a really big accomplishment for him to get to the Final Four.
He's going to be the young lion who's the pin eater, like we said, but man, what if they did that?
Yeah.
With Fujita, I talked earlier about the guys that had sort of had the junior titles in their orbit, and that's sort of off the table. And I think that helps Fujita's case. I know that he did win the tournament last year. He's had some successes, but maybe not gotten the coronation we have anticipated thus far. He still feels, to me, even with all of that going against him, as the odds-on favorite in the block to be a finalist and maybe win the tournament.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if Fujita is not in the semifinals. We know how Gato loves to book consecutive winners, or even have guys, if they won the previous year, at least get to the finals. So yeah, I think Kosei Fujita is a very heavy favorite for semifinals and finals. I think that he's a guy that, this I think is kind of a testing period for him as we kind of develop him. It's like, all right, let's see what you can continue to do here. Can you be a focal point in this block? Can you continue to get over? Can you be seen as a main eventer as we, lost guys like Hiromu Takahashi and, Kishida's not really what he used to be. And, eventually Desperado will probably not be the main focal point of the division. And so you need new guys to kind of cycle in and to build the division around. And so I think it's another opportunity for him to kind of, cement his name.
I'm in no way a Fujita doubter or hater. There are those that exist. But, one of the talking points for anybody that is a naysayer about Fujita that they bring up is how he doesn't feel like the complete package. Even though he looks good on paper, some of the classics that you're expecting and some of the next level wrestling, it has yet to really be displayed by him. And given how talented this field is, he's going to get the kayfabe push, but this is not a guy that you want to be seen as just a good hand and a compiler. The opportunity is on the table for him to not just go deep in the tournament or even win it, but to actually have those matches where you're like, okay, this guy's undeniable. He's the best fucking wrestler in the division. And right now, as much as I like Fujita, I don't know that I think he is yet.
Yeah, I feel like bell to bell, there are some guys that are better than him, but you want to see him, kind of become that ace of the junior division. Not just by push, but by match quality, undeniable. Like, he's the man. He kills it every night. We know we can count on him. I don't know if you can fully, right now today, throw him in there and be like, we know for sure it's going to be, match of the year level, or, really, really great matchup. And also he's still young and still developing. But I think at some point he's going to need to get to that level.
It's not as low as just being like, oh yeah, he's solid. He's better than solid. He's a guy you can count on to have great matches, but especially in the tag team realm, that's where he's excelled. But, you would just basically be like, he's a really, dependable, great guy, but he doesn't get to he's not having 5-star classic sort of thing. And that's where we want him to be. We want to talk about him as like, oh yeah, like he's the fucking best junior in the world.
Yeah.
And it's not that yet.
Yeah. Well, is there any matchup of his are you looking forward to?
Probably the Robbie X match. Given the rivalry between those guys all throughout the end of last year and this year, to see them lock it up again, and with what Robbie X brings to the table, physically, I think that's going to be, those guys really have a lot of chemistry. I think they're going to do something kind of surprising there. Yeah.
Another good one that I'm looking out for is him and Francesco Akira. Also, the other end of that junior tag rivalry. Also, Ichiban Sweet Boys have been feuding with Akira and Jacob Austin Young. and had that failed title defense earlier this year. And so I feel like those guys are going to kill. I think they're the night one main event in Cork and Hall. So great stage for them as well. So I think they're going to go out there and really try to kill it. So that takes us to the next guy. We're going to look at the way to the Grand Master, Master Wato, and his sixth entry, second consecutive. He was the 2023 winner.
So recently I had shared that stat that I uncovered that Wato and Yo are amongst the most, and I mean, everyone kind of knew this, but I pulled out the actual numbers. But, Wato and Yo, two of the most failingest challengers to the junior title gold, or silver, as I should say. And they both won this tournament. They both failed in challenging for the title after that. And then they've kind of struggled since then to get back into real contention for being a player at the end of these tournaments. I guess the opportunity is on the table. There are those fans that are like, I love Wato. I want to see him like finally deliver on this like prolonged journey. But honestly, I'm starting to believe that that's probably not going to happen. Or if it does, it's not going to precede them continuing to push the younger guys that have sort of excelled beyond them. So I expect him to have a solid tournament. He's going to get a respectable, score. But I don't think that Wato, unless, again, they are doing the semifinal format, so it does open it up for pretty much anyone to go through. But I cannot see him as a serious finalist or winner of this tournament.
Yeah, when I look at the names in this block, there are a lot of guys that I would put through, but not him. Like you said, I think he'll probably be like a 5-4 guy, get 10 points, or maybe even 4-5, get 8 points. But looking at the names, there's a lot more compelling two names that I would push through to go to the semifinal format. And it's kind of a shame with Wato, because also that 2023 final with Teton was so great, and it felt like the final like breakout moment, and we're gonna do something with this guy. He kind of finally has, he's out. He's the Grand Master. He's put together, but that was not the case. And he had the failed title challenge, and then there wasn't no really follow after that. And he's kind of floundered around, and then he hasn't really had any standout matches since then.
In much the same way that WWE failed to pull the trigger on Braun Strowman, and AEW failed to pull the trigger on Wardlow when they were hot, New Japan has failed to pull the trigger on Wato in the several times where he was hot in this division. And, they're past the peak.
Yeah, I don't see a return back to the top for that.
Wardlow, Strowman,
Wato.
Way to the Grandmaster.
Is there any opponent here that you're looking forward to for Wato?
I'll go with Valiente Jr. Wato is he spent time in Mexico, and that's going to be interesting to see what he does with a young high flying athletic luchador.
Yeah, I would say the Teton rematch. Maybe they can try to recapture some of that magic from the 23 finals. If they do, that can be a really good matchup.
I didn't even think of the fact that they were the finalists together in this block.
Yeah, and I think they're facing off on the first night as well. So up next, Ryusuke Taguchi, his 22nd entry, second consecutive. He was the 2012 winner.
Yeah, and he's been a multiple time finalist. With this, the official distinction is that he will have tied the all-time appearance record of Jushin Thunder Liger for best of the Super Juniors. But as you know, Jeremy, I'm a purist, and I truly believe that top of the Super Juniors is the same lineage as best of the Super Juniors. you know, there were all of those round robin heavyweight tournaments that preceded the G1, you know, quite a few of them. But the reality is those were their own separate thing. They weren't, you know, I guess you could spiritually call them a successor of, or, you know, predecessor of the G1, but they're not the G1. You know, the G1 is its own thing. In fact, there was even a year-long break between, you know, 1990, they didn't even have a round robin before they started G1 Climax. There's even that like break delineation. But Top of the Super Juniors was the same fucking tournament in the same time of the year, the same guys. They just changed the name, and it was always believed and understood that it was still the same tournament. They just adjusted the name. And somewhere along the way, we've gotten to the point where, like, in the kayfabe, because it's got, you know, this is what, number 33 or whatever. They don't acknowledge those first four Top of the Super Juniors. But I said all that to say this. Jushin Thunder Liger has got way more appearances in the the Super Junior lineage than Taguchi. Don't let the fake news outlets out there, you know, convince you that this guy is anywhere close to meeting the records that Jushin Thunder Liger holds. They are going to stand in for the rest of the time. No one's beating them, including Taguchi.
Yeah, and I'm not really excited here for Taguchi. I know in the past and in the history of the show, we always used to say, you know, never doubt Big Match Taguchi, but you know, the sightings of Big Match Taguchi have been rarer and rarer as we move along year after year. And I'm not really expecting much from him, and I can't really say there's anybody here that I'm really looking forward to seeing him, you know, mix it up with.
He will do one big match to Gooch match. That's fine. And you know what? If anything, maybe I should backtrack. I think Daiki Nagai versus Taguchi, and I'll just name that one for Taguchi. That is going to be interesting to see him versus, you know, basically the oldest guy in the block versus the youngest guy in the block, and how, you know, how that's worked.
Yeah, and kind of like we were talking about with Daiki, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to him just kind of get in new environments. But yeah, seeing how he handles a Taguchi style match could be interesting as well. So following that, we got Robbie X, his second consecutive, his career best 4-5 in last year's tournament, and also former junior tag team champion.
Robbie X is not going to, you know, so far of everyone we've talked about, the only person I could legitimately see being a threat to go through is Fujita. You get to Robbie X and he's talented enough, but he doesn't have the cachet in this division just yet. Like, he hasn't arrived at the point where they're ready to push him. But off the hard work and labor that he like laid the groundwork last year by having a fantastic tournament, that opened up the door for what he was able to do in the junior division and winning those tag titles. I think that if he has another breakout performance in this tournament, that may, even if he doesn't wind up with the strongest points total when it's all said and done, if he's respectable and he has great matches and management continues to be impressed with what he's doing, he might be a player down the road. Within a year or something like that.
Yeah, I think Robbie is a outstanding performer, and I feel like he has really done an excellent job since coming into New Japan. I know there are a lot of naysayers and haters about him just due to his look and size, but I think the guy is a phenomenal worker. He is really outstanding and really fun to watch, and I feel like he, over the last year, has done a really great job of getting himself over, connecting with the Japanese crowd, and forming this really excellent tag team with Taiji Ishimori. And he's a guy where, you know, last year I'd be like, I don't see him getting through, but now I feel like he's elevated himself to a spot where if he goes through as one of the two guys from this block, like, I'm not going to be surprised. And honestly, I kind of want him to. I feel like he's kind of earned and deserved to get some kind of push in a singles capacity. And I would love it if he's one of the guys that gets through to semifinals.
So both you and I obviously are fans, and we're both basically pointing to the idea that, he needs an elevation. It's just at this point, I think that you might even see him having risen to a certain status based off the back of him holding tag team gold and everything like that. I'm still of the opinion that like they're going to need to do a little bit more work on him beyond this tournament. But to your point, if they were to push him through as a finalist, he's not far enough out to where you couldn't give him like a Carl Anderson. We're going to make him as a guy sort of thing.
Yeah, they really want to kind of stamp it home. Have him go through into semifinals and put him against somebody interesting from the B block, whoever wins B block, and have him have a really great standout match there.
Interesting. Yeah. I think we're both expecting big things. For me, I think the Robbie X match that I'm most excited for is the Nick Wayne match.
Yeah. That could be really great. Both those guys going out there and doing a lot of really cool stuff. I would say as a second pick to that, I'd probably go with, I know we mentioned Vegeta earlier, but I think either Vegeta or Akira, just kind of due to the junior tag title rivalries and seeing what that looks like in a singles capacity. I think those could be really fun matches to watch as well.
One last thing, like you said, Robbie X had naysayers coming into this. I know that sometimes I get the reputation as being like the curmudgeon of our fan group, where I'm following more like 1980s punch style wrestling and guys working holds. But of course, I still love the flips and the high flying. And how often is it that we collectively, Social Suplex, the people on this channel, especially, us connected with One Nation Radio, where we'll look at a guy that everybody else is saying sucks, and we'll see how athletic they are. We'll call it early. We'll be like, no, they're going to fucking be something. And people are always like, no, you're wrong, blah, 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 blah. And then suddenly Callum Newman is IWGP heavyweight champion. Robbie X is, turning into, one of the next guys in this division. We got a winning track record as a group.
Yeah, definitely.
Eye for talent.
Well, next up in the block, we got Teton from the Unbound Company. This is his 7th entry, 5th consecutive. And like we mentioned earlier, he was a finalist in 2023, failing to beat Master Wato in that tournament final.
It was shocking at the time that Teton got that push. Refreshing, but since that time they've paid respect to him, but they haven't pushed him anywhere near that level again. I don't think that could he be a guy to go through as those last 4? Possibly. They do give him a lot of respect as not only the fact that he finaled before, but he's also a long-standing main eventer and world champion in CMLL. I know they don't always pay attention to those belts, and yeah, he'll take some losses, but they clearly do put value in it. He's a guy that's maybe going to go far, but truthfully, he's probably not even going to be a finalist. I think that he's sort of found his way into the Volador Jr. role, where it's like he's going to get a lot of points, he's going to be respected, but he's never going through again.
Yeah, which is a shame because, Teton's a really phenomenal worker, and he's always exciting to watch. And if I were them, I would try to get him in that Dragon Lee role of being that guy that comes in, wins a title, can get to a finals of a tournament more than once, and just kind of be this, exciting kind of quasi member of the roster. I think he comes in enough to utilize him and push him in that capacity. But like you mentioned, they haven't done that since 2023. They've kind of kept him close to that kind of sphere, but not really going all the way. All season he was in the top, one of the top factions in LIJ. He's now Unbound Company, which is still a very popular group. But yeah, I wouldn't mind if he ends up going through. I think it'd be cool to just even have him win it, and put the belt on him and kind of really recharge, refresh the junior division, but I don't see that happening at all.
Jeremy, I feel like when you are looking at the junior division, you're like Triple H in that you don't see color. Okay?
I see flips.
you see the talent for what it is, and I see the politics of what it is, and I'm like, there's only enough room in this company to put the title on one Mexican at a time. You know, Mystico's already champion. We can't also belt up,
and we got Andrade too.
And yeah, well, I wasn't even getting to the, the gaijin of it all. Yeah, there's so many outsiders. I mean, if Fate had played the way it was supposed to be, it was going to be Gabe Kidd,
Mm-hmm.
And Callum Newman. I mean, bro, like talk about outsider, summer. There's no way they're putting this title on Teton.
At this point, anybody but Doki.
And that's what I feel like it comes down to. You're like, oh man, that sounds so good, because anything sounds good when it's not Doki at this point.
Yeah. As far as matches for Teton, maybe the Valiente Junior match, just to kind of get your little Lucha All-Star match there and see what they end up doing.
I'm gonna say Fujita, just because I feel like he's a really good test in terms of different style and technical style to see what Fujita can get out of him. Some of the best juniors have been able to have fantastic tournament matches with him. It's time for Fujita to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Then next up, we got the Crown of Fire, Francesco Akira, with his fifth entry, fifth consecutive. His career best was last year, going 5-4.
It feels like, and it could be one of those things, Jeremy, where the Western fan base is embracing something early and we're hoping and trying to will something that's just not going to happen. It could be one of those situations, but hopefully it's not. Hopefully we're wrong. And it feels like Francesco Akira is on the precipice of being ready for a big push, especially considering his position in this like rising group in United Empire. He's easily, for me, and I know you're probably going to agree, but as of right now in this block, he's going to be like the early runner for MVP. He's the guy that's probably going to give most of the tournament their best matches. And it does feel like he could be another semifinalist or even potential favorite to win the tournament at this point.
Yeah, Akira's been one of my favorites for last few years now, especially, what the work that was done with Catch 2-2, and then even in a singles capacity, he's done a lot of really entertaining stuff as well. And I feel like every year he gets better and closer to big spots. And, this year they did a lot of rebuilding with him, also coming back at Wrestle Kingdom, turning heel. He had some wins over Hiromu and Ishimori in tag earlier in the year. Had a junior tag title challenge, and I feel like they've kind of kept him strong and heated him up a lot. You don't see him eating a ton of falls in these multi-man United Empire things, and he's always one of the standouts in those matches as well. So I feel like he's done a lot of really, really good work, and they've told some compelling stories in the past with him. With Desperado, that Corkin match where he's just bent up in the numero dos and he's fighting and gritting through, and all of the stuff with him and Drilla Maloney with the fork and that rivalry with War Dogs. So yeah, he's been through a lot. There's been a lot of character development. The work is great. So yeah, he would be a heavy favorite for me to get through.
Well, on the Road to show, he was flexing, throwing up the guns, and I could see the wings under his arms. And like, I noticed, I was like, once upon a time, this was a guy that struggled with like all that body acne and everything. And like, he couldn't get it under control. And now like he's clean skinned and bulked up, and he's still a junior, mind you, but he's
jacked.
He's starting to look like Pockish a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, that's a guy who's getting ready for a fucking run. And not just the stories that they've told with him that you mentioned, from years past, but even just looking at this year, he was the guy that was like trying to retire Hiromu, and he picked up big wins over Hiromu as well as Ishimori and who else? And I think Desperado as well, right? Somewhere along the way.
Did he? I can't remember if I know for sure he got Hiromu and Ishimori. I can't remember if he got Despy or not.
Well, either way, no, I think he did, because I'm pretty sure the story was like, they're the big three and I need to get wins over each one of them. And, granted, he hasn't won the title yet. He hasn't, won this tournament or even gone deep in them, but he's recently been picking up big wins over big name opponents. And I think that is setting the stage for him to be a player and be elevated. Even if he doesn't win this tournament, I kind of expect him to potentially be a finalist and a guy that you're looked at afterwards. Like, okay, he's, a reasonable main eventer for this division.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, if he ends up being the MVP of this block, I'm not going to be surprised. He's odds on favorite. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of fun matches for him here in this block. Again, we've mentioned Fujita and Robbie X. Also, I think Teton will be another great guy for him to mix it up with. The Nick Wayne match will be a lot of fun. I feel like with Akira, he's pretty much going to have a fun match every night.
I already said earlier that, every single guy, I'm going to be curious how they match up with him. But more so, I am interested in what Francesco Akira against Jun Kasai looks like. Something about it, I could be wrong here, but remember, Kenny Omega, big heel in the G1, yada, yada, yada. And then he finds himself across the ring from Minoru Suzuki. And it's like, I'm a heel, but that dude's a fucking killer. I get a feeling that Francesco Akira versus Jun Kasai might play out something similar to that, especially with the deferring styles of wrestling. Mm-hmm. And, he's not a stranger to outside brawling himself. It's going to be interesting to see what they do there.
Yeah. So next up in the block, we got the former Ring of Honor TV champion, Nick Wayne, with his second consecutive career best, 4-5 in his first tournament last year.
I don't really know much about what's going on with Nick Wayne as it pertains to AEW and Ring of Honor. I know I saw the big match with him last year, at ROH that week. I think he wrestled. I actually don't remember now that I'm trying to think about it, but he had a big match in ROH last year when we were in Dallas. Was it Lee Moriarty he wrestled? I could be wrong, but I know he held the pure title or he held one of the titles.
He was the TV champion. He just lost it this past weekend.
So, they've kept him a little bit busy there, but I haven't been watching. So I don't know, Jeremy, you tell me. I know that this is an exciting prospect. He looked really good last year, but where is he in terms of things of where they're slotting him and his progress?
Yeah, I mean, they really haven't done a ton with him since his return from injury. Probably the most notable thing, he had a match with Moxley on Collision 2 or 3 weeks ago. That was really, really good. And then, spoiler alert, this weekend during the ROH tapings, he drops the TV title to AR Fox. So it seems like he might be kind of done in ROH. He's going to come do his New Japan, and maybe when he comes back, there will be plans for him. But yeah, since returning from the injury, being away from, Christian and all that, they really haven't determined what they're doing with him next. And so I think it's a great opportunity for him to, come to Japan and, continue to make a name for himself. And he's a guy where I would kind of say, hey, we don't have anything for you right now. Yeah, why don't you spend the rest of the year in Japan and get involved with some stories, kind of continue to develop, get some more experience, and then, come back at the beginning of the year and we'll make sure we'll have something ready for you.
Well, that's what Will Ospreay was calling for in his recent interviews about the relationship between AEW and New Japan. So we've always kind of advocated for, especially how bloated that roster is. There's clearly some opportunity to send guys out on a quasi excursion. I took a look last year. Now I recall it. It was actually him and Teton who he'll be facing in this tournament. That's who he wrestled in Arlington, Texas last year on the same weekend of All In. So it is going to be interesting just to kind of see, because on the one hand, you sort of have that knee-jerk concept. Will Tony Khan be protecting this guy and give him some sort of shield to where he does well in the point standings and is somewhat protected? Or even could he be a reasonable expectation of a guy to go through, depending? But all the same, he is still green. He is still a young guy. He's really good for his age. But again, he's here for a second year for a reason. And I think it's mainly learning based more so than name value.
Yeah. Also, I think getting him more experience in a tournament like this is going to be great. And yeah, there is obviously the AEW implications of is that going to be something that helps him potentially get a semifinal spot? And I don't know. I feel like we've mentioned a lot of names here that could get through in Fujita, in Robbie X, Teton, Akira. And you got to think, I know you were talking about, foreigners, and you got to think they're not going to put two foreigners through this thing. So you got to think, well, from a domestic side, Fujita's probably the lock. And then from there, it's like, all right, who do you put through? Do you go with an Akira who's, clearly peaking right now and has done great work? There's Robbie X, and then now you throw in this other option of Nick Wayne. I feel like, they're all good options, but I feel like a lot of people might be mad if they go with Nick Wayne over an Akira, over a Robbie X.
Well, I think Western fans would. I'm not convinced that domestic fans necessarily would. Now, I will say this, though. When he was announced as one of the final, entrants into the tournament, there was non-reaction to his name being called. So it wasn't like he established himself enough last year in the tournament to be an anticipated returning name, at least not when they made that announcement in Tokyo a couple months back.
Yeah.
All the same, we do know that this is a guy that can go in the ring, and we've seen foreign talents in just one tour really ingratiate themselves and get over and get, to the next level in terms of how the domestic audience reacts to them. So even if like Western fan base, we're looking at it, we're like, our favorite guys didn't get through. All that really matters is if the domestic live audience is reacting and invested, and that could happen.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we've mentioned a lot of different matches for him, but obviously the Teton rematch could be really, really great, and him and Akira, him and Robbie X.
I think I'm most interested in him and Fujita for the fact that Fujita is considered de facto uncrowned ace of the division, and you've got this kind of dynamo outsider up and coming like virtuoso to see like what they do with one another.
Yeah. Then second to last here in the block, Valiente Jr. from CMLL making his debut entry in the tournament. We saw a little bit of him during Fantastica Mania this year. He looked really, really good. So it's always exciting to get another luchador in the mix here.
Yeah, and I've been seeing some clips of his recently circulate on, on Twitter. So there's a lot of hype about the growth and already, I wouldn't even just call it potential, but like the talent he already possesses. And I've seen, Lucha Libre fans speculate that he'll be the breakout guy from this block where everyone's going to be talking about how great he is. And, we've seen when certain guys get that exposure on a big stage like this, there's their career before that moment and then afterwards. And this could potentially be one of those things.
Yeah. And so he might end up having a great tournament match quality wise, but like we mentioned earlier, he is a little bit lower on the totem pole in CMLL. First time in the tournament, I could easily see him being a 3-6 guy, where he he might be one of the MVPs for quality, but I don't see him racking up a ton of wins and points in this tournament.
Yeah, and if he does pick up at least one semi-meaningful or significant win, that would be, that would really be saying something. So that's what I'm hoping for anyways.
Yeah. And as far as matches, I still kind of the opposite end of, him and Teton. Like I mentioned earlier, for Teton, I think that'll be fun for him.
Yeah.
Then last but not least, Jun Kasai also making his debut entry in the tournament.
So, if you've been watching New Japan for the last couple of years, Jun Kasai shouldn't be a total mystery to you, especially the series of matches that he's had both in and outside of New Japan with El Desperado. This ongoing romance saga, born in blood and glass and skewers. But with that being said, he is still a scuzzy bottom barrel deathmatch guy being booked in New Japan's most prestigious junior tournament. Do I think he's going to get a lot of points? I could see it going one of two ways. I could see it where they're like, hey, he's here to, do some, brawling on the outside, maybe some hardcore shit, pick up some good wins, but he's not really a real factor. On the other end, if New Japan's a little hard up for some ticket sales and they want to rely on one of the more trusted drawing names in the tournament, they might need to, bite their tongue, grit their teeth, and be willing to put a deathmatch guy through into their semifinals.
Yeah, and, there were a lot of pundits that are critical on, why didn't they put Jun Kasai and Desperado in the same block? Well, you said a great point of maybe they need a draw, and could you see a semifinal of Jun Kasai versus El Desperado in the semifinals? Or do you even go the full-on crazier route and have that be your finals, Jun Kasai and Despy, and then you do something where they convince Tanahashi to let them have a death match in the finals of Best of Super Juniors? And do you elevate that rivalry to a big spot, especially if it is going to end up on a Dominion? I feel like it's a Dominion-worthy matchup, but also we know that they've been kind of sequestering the junior title to its own shows. And again, if you want a alluring main event for its own show, again, Desperado and Jun Kasai, we've seen is a very intriguing matchup. It draws, it captures the attention of people who are into that rivalry and into those two guys. So yeah, I don't think that, Rich says you can't count out Chris Jericho. I don't think we can count out Jun Kasai here in this tournament, especially if the reason why he's in the opposite block of Despy is because they are destined to a semifinal or final matchup. But it's going to be very interesting to see how his matches lay out, because yeah, he's a deathmatch guy. Is he going to try to have some deathmatch kind of action going on in his matches, or we're going to see some referee discretion where they're letting him kind of get away with a little bit more than they probably would let somebody else get away with? Or are we going to get a scenario where maybe that's how he doesn't get points, is where he, obviously he's going to his default of wanting to hit people with stuff, and he smashes somebody with a light tube and the ref has to throw it out?
That sounds very ghetto to you, does it not?
Yeah. And so, you have this guy, he looks like a badass every night, but he could end up being 3-6 because he's just hitting people with weapons all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I haven't looked to see how he's being placed on the card, but I'm sure he probably has a couple main events there. And maybe just the appeal of him being an attraction name for those 10 nights or 9 nights or whatever it is he'll be on the shows, that's enough. You don't need him to go through. But if they're not looking to push talent and give guys pushes, and they're more so looking to sell some local tickets you could do worse than putting a big name deathmatch wrestler through, potentially.
Yeah, especially if the end goal is him versus Despy in a semifinal or final spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Although, again, it won't be a death match. So same things you brought up earlier. Like, how are they going to implement that?
Yeah. Well, that's it for the A block. Let's jump to the B block. First, El Desperado. It was a 10th entry, 7th consecutive. Won the tournament in 2024.
So, I mean, you sort of always have to factor in El Desperado at this point. Essentially the ace of the junior division, even if he is not currently dominating the title scene as he's done the past few years. It would be hard to imagine he's not one of the 2 finalists. And even though I'm not always the highest on Desperado matches, he tends to really turn up and show out for Super Juniors tournaments, especially when he's being featured in main event slots along the nights. And I could easily see him being the MVP or kind of competing with that with Robbie Eagles in this block.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I think just looking at the block, to me, yeah, it's like a cakewalk for him as a one of the 2 finalists going to the semifinal spot. And yeah, again, he should have a really great tournament. As far as matches, like you mentioned, Eagles being the other MVP. So yeah, it probably would be him and Eagles will probably be one of his best matches. Him and Kushida will probably have a really good match. So is Ishimori, but Eagles will probably be his best match in this block.
Well, we're kind of thinking about what happens if he faces old foe in, Jun Kasai later on. But we got a scummer right down here earlier in the same block. Him and Daisuke Sasaki. I bet you those guys are going to, they're going to throw a chair or 2. They're going to go through a table. It's going to be a little bit, extreme.
Yeah. Then next up, the time splitter Kushida of his 13th entry, 4th consecutive. He was the 2015 and 2017 winner, also the current MLW middleweight champion.
In years past, we had strongly factored in Kushida into these points totals, just kind of considering like, hey, not only was he former ace and one of the best wrestlers in the world, but he like went away to America, wrestled for WWE, had some success. And we kind of know how in New Japan, they can put that on a pedestal. But I think it's different if you were a domestic guy and then you didn't have high levels of success, kind of, we're looking at you. Yoshitatsu, that's another similar instance. With that being said, Kushida at one point was being pushed towards title contention upon his most recent return, and then it just fizzled out. There was a variety of reasons. But in the past few tournaments, when we expected him to sort of be higher end, do super well, he's been very low on the totem pole and kind of closer to the bottom. That being said, he's also like a year ago, he was much lower than he is right now. Since like the past year, he's had this run in MLW. He's won some titles. And you look at the field, and there are quite a few beatable names for him in this block. So while I don't think he's going to be a main player, I think he is going to do better than we've seen the past like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he could easily beat Io, Kanemaru, Sho, Jacob Austin Young. Like, yeah, I could see him easily racking up at least 8 points. And
yep,
again, if you want to throw him into a semifinal position, I think it's very believable for him to do that with this block.
I don't think he'll go that far, but I do think like 8 to 10 points is his landing point for sure.
Yeah. And as far as matches for him, probably Robbie Eagles.
Yeah, I'll just go with Kanemaru. not that you're expecting anything out of that, but it's sort of just like the one guy's going to go for the leg and try his best to like cheat his way to a victory. And then Kushida is going to be looking to tear his fucking arm off. So it's very simple story.
Yeah. Then next up, we got the Bone Soldier Taiji Ishimori with his 10th entry, 9th consecutive. He was a finalist in 2018 and 2024.
He is very likely the other guy that is going to wind up going through the semifinals along with El Desperado. As much as there is young talent being pushed in New Japan at the current moment, Ishimori just tends to always find himself on the right side of history when it comes to different groups and how they're being pushed and how he winds up being used. And, you know, I know he's had some periods of lull when it comes to how we've been impressed with him, but recently he's seemed very reinvigorated. I don't know that I'm ready to see another Ishimori title run or title challenge anytime soon, but when called upon in the big match, he delivers, and he is tried and, you know, trusted by management. I know that we're all clamoring for them to push young guys, but the junior division is a little different. They still got a couple guys like hanging around, and there's nowhere left for them to go, and they're too big for them to push down right now. And I'm not looking at very many matches in this block where I'm like, hey, this is a guy Ishimori's never wrestled before, and he's going to make them. That like kind of doesn't exist. So for that reason, I think he's probably a guy that will still go through with Desperado. It's kind of chalk.
Yeah, and then when you look at the A block, you know, I feel like we've picked out a lot of younger names to go through there. So it could be you have your A's, the young guys going through, B's, the veterans, and you got a setup there of two young versus veteran guys in the semifinals.
And then Desperado and Ishimori beat those young guys, and
send them packing.
We get a rematch between them from the same tournament.
Yeah, but I do feel
not to mention they've finaled against each other before.
Yeah, I do feel like Ishimori's been invigorated. With this whole Robbie X tag team, and he's looked really good, and so just based off of that junior tag title work, I could easily see him being a guy that they send through with Desperado.
I'm not super enthused for any Yo match because he's so, you can't count on him. One night he'll just kill it, and then the other nights he's going to dog it. But you might see something get pulled out of him a little special by Ishimori. I feel like those two guys might be motivated that night. Just a hunch.
Well, speaking of Yo, he's the next guy here. 8th entry, 2nd consecutive. His career best was in 2021 and 2025, finaling in both of those tournaments, but failing to win them.
So wash, rinse, and repeat many of the things I said about Wato earlier. You can kind of just copy and paste them over to Yo. But I don't think he'll go through, but him and Sho are two guys that the company is content to push through into, they might not final, they might not win, but they're comfortable putting them into prominent positions. I could see them, either one of them, going through as a semifinalist.
Yeah, and I think the way this block is laid out, it could be in a favor for a guy like Yo, where I think, again, there are a lot of names here that Yo has beaten in the past, and it's believable for him to beat. So yeah, if they really wanted to go that route, they could. I wouldn't if I were them, and the guys already had a failed title challenge this year. I would, go with somebody else.
I think that the A block, it's very common with Ghetto's booking that you see a parody block and then a block with guys that sort of excel and, maybe push past the rest of the field. If I were to guess, based on the fact that you have some guys that are lower on the totem pole in the A block, plus a wide variance of ages and statuses and even some outsiders, I'm going to guess that A block has the capacity to be the one where they push a couple guys and give them big point totals. But the B block might be the one because there's so many established names in kayfabe. It's probably going to be very parity based. A lot of these guys will be alive going into the last few nights. And Yo's going to be a player whether he gets through or not.
Yeah. And also, he's infamous wacky roll-up guy. And there's several people in this block that he can easily roll up and beat guys he's beaten before. So, yeah, I think he's you have to keep your eye on him as a potential semifinalist. Next up, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Uncle Nobu, with his 9th entry, 6 consecutive, his career best being 4-3 in the 2017 tournament.
We've been doing this for quite a while. Like you mentioned, he's been in quite a few tournaments. I think we've covered all of them almost. And it is the same comment every year, but it's not necessarily the worst comment of any of the House of Torture juniors. Kanemaru can easily be the most digestible, maybe even more so than Doki. And especially in the Super Juniors tournament environment, because that he's basically here just to play spoiler for a couple guys. And while he's not going to have blowaway matches, they're going to be short. They're going to be early on the card, and they're usually going to have good stories leading into them. And you're going to see entertaining, creative work from him that you don't normally see the rest of the year. Again, they're not going to go out of your way matches, but they're going to be good story matches with him doing some kind of cool, inventive, fun, wacky things. And it's, you get some entertainment value out of it.
Yeah. The thing I love about Kanemaru's Super Junior matches is there is an urgency to him. He's trying to win as fast as possible. So he's pulling out all his roll-ups. He's attacking people before the bells. He's trying to put the match away as quickly as possible. And I think that's just kind of a little bit refreshing to kind of break the pattern of all right, we know these guys are going to go back and forth and do their spots. I have 9 matches. I need to win it. Try to win as quickly as possible. I'm fresh for the whole tournament. So his layout and mentality with the way he does his matches in these tournaments, I think it's refreshing and fun to watch.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, it plays right into that. The fact that he will play spoiler for a few guys, and we've seen him beat some top names in this tournament, that adds to that urgency that you were mentioning in the fact that, it is believable most nights that he could beat any name that you could imagine. And so it adds to the excitement of that match where, if it was a road to Dantaku singles match or, a New Year's Eve match or whatever, you're like, okay, he's probably going to take a pinfall loss here. But because he's playing specifically the mathematical, spoiler guy, it makes it believable. You get more into it. And I've always enjoyed those matches.
Yeah. And out of all his matches, probably the Despy matchup with just their history being former tag partners, and Kanemaru probably wanting to go extra low there to try and beat Despy.
Even though there's the old country beef that exists between him and Ishimori, that sort of thing has been a little bit settled at this point. So I'm going to say him and El Desperado, because of the Suzuki-gun connection, former multi-time tag team champions together. There's a lot of history there. And that might be a potential spoiler alert sort of thing.
Yeah. Then next up, Sho with his 9th entry, 9th consecutive career best, being in 2020 where he went 6-3.
The one sort of redeeming aspect about Sho being in this tournament is that he is currently serving in a sort of underling role to Doki, which means he will not be a guy that wins this tournament. However, it doesn't preclude the idea that he could be a finalist or a semifinalist, and he might be carrying the banner as the representation, as an avatar for Doki in his absence here.
Mm-hmm.
Sho is a guy, we could talk about it all day, but it is so disappointing to see where he started and where he's wound up, both in kayfabe and as just a general fan. It's not exciting to see him. He sucks in these tournaments. He literally brings the House of Torturism into this shit where he's going to do something new. I mean, I don't imagine he'll just do the wrench thing every night, but you never know, he could. But he typically tries to find one new gimmick each juniors tour and just spams that shit to death to where you don't want to see it anymore. I have no excitement about Sho being in this tournament or him as a wrestler any longer whatsoever, but he could be a semifinalist, and that sucks.
Yeah, and we know how they love to book House of Torture in these tournaments. They like to get them into spots where you really want them to lose. We've seen them, slide through to semifinal positions, finals positions, just so you get the happy moment of, yes, finally somebody beat them. They didn't win in the finals. And so how they book this faction with Doki not being in the tournament and Sho probably being his proxy, and with him being a former junior champion as well, I feel like there's a lot working for him to, if they want to slide him through the semifinals. Like, again, I wouldn't do that, but the stuff's laid out there for them to do that if they want to.
I mean, that would very much fit the motif of what Gedo has become known for over the past few years, and he is clearly the highest statured House of Torture junior in this tournament. So yeah, you're right. All the same, back in March, they eliminated all the House of Torturism going into the final few rounds, and people were so excited about that fresh decision. And the fact that there are only those 4 slots, and again, this is a guy that nobody is truly going to believe will go against Doki and challenge for the title because he's his lackey right now. I think that does probably speak to the point that while he's going to be talking Doki, the whole tournament, blah, 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 he'll have a shtick. I think it makes it less likely that he goes through. I think that those spots are better served pushing potential challengers as opposed to a guy that is a no-hoper, especially considering their connection and relationship.
Yeah. And I don't even know who to say for a match for him because I don't think any of his matchups here are going to be very enjoyable.
It's not going to be good, but I just have to say Kanemaru because of the House of Torturism of it all. But you know how that's going to play out, but it will be the one different match than everything else.
Yeah.
Maybe considering how scuzzy they both are, maybe him and Daisuke Sasaki might be something to think about.
Yeah. Well, next up, our good friend, the Sniper of the Skies, Robbie Eagles, with his 8th entry, 8th consecutive career best, 5-4 in 2019, 2020, 2022, 2023, and 2024.
Yeah, so along with it being his career best and all of that, it's also he's setting the record for the most appearances in a Super Junior tournament for any foreign wrestler. So big deal, more than, Wild Pegasus or Eddie Guerrero or Will Ospreay or, the list goes on and on. There's so many of them. He's the guy that sort of set that precedent. He's also never advanced as far as people would like to have seen him advance in this tournament. And you do kind of have to wonder, while, there's some young guys they can push, would it not be a terrible idea to put Robbie in a position to either go up against his partner in Fujita or be the guy that, test some of the other top young guys in this division? He has the capacity to do that. They've also put the junior title on him in the past, but it was during the pandemic era. And if you really wanted another top player, he's a guy that you can just dust off. He's not like in the Shingo position where, Shingo's title run was very lengthy and then it was definitively ended. And it still sort of feels like Robbie's is unfulfilled. There's unfinished business there. He's undoubtedly going to be the MVP of the block. I'm thinking of the kayfabe and like what opportunity lays out there if they decide, hey, let's push this guy a little more than we have.
Yeah, I hope they do. I feel like he is probably, easily one of the best workers in this block in this whole tournament. He's a guy that I would easily slide into a semifinal spot here. And, we've talked about how great Robbie is. And, but it's like you mentioned, they just, for whatever reason, he kind of is he's a top foreigner, but he kind of has that ceiling where, he's just not going to get past that 5-4. They're not going to push him outside of a pandemic period. But I think that he has the talent, he has the skills, and again, he's been one of the pillars of junior tag team wrestling for the last several years now, with him and Vegeta, and countless feuds against Catch 22 and Drille and Clark and Kevin Knight and Kushida, and now with Robbie X and Ishimori and Akira and Jacob Austin Young. Like, they have been a backbone of the junior tag division, and partly of that is him and his coaching of Vegeta as well. So I think that he is a guy that has what it takes, and there is the kayfabe to back up him being a semifinalist.
I may have been a little overconfident. When we started, I was so set on the idea that Desperado and Ishimori will be the de facto two guys from the block to go through to the semifinals. And that's mainly just based on that would be such a chalk idea, that it's so chalk, it's probably what Gato will do. But as we discussed, this is a very parity-based block. There's a lot of guys you could believably see going through. I think that it's less of a foregone conclusion than I laid out. And there are those possibilities for interesting things, like a guy like Robbie going through. Do I know that Robbie is going to be, someone that is in play down the stretch? It could be that glass ceiling situation that you laid out, and maybe they see him as a utility player, but he's also right on that precipice to where if you want to push him, you want to have him be a made guy. And now you've got an even greater, because we've seen some exoduses recently, especially with Hiromu, where you've got some holes to fill. You could do worse than having like a main eventer / coach sort of guy that is from the previous generation, sort of like what they did with Goto last year, where you give him the sort of like, okay, attaboy, let's give you the run. And now you're a player at the top with guys like Shingo and Zach, and we can count on you to be at the top end of these junior matches,
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be great to give him that push and utilize him. But yeah, hopefully they'll do a little bit more of him this year.
And, I know they haven't always been in the same block, but, we talk about many times where Desperado, especially in the last like 4 or so years, has been the MVP of either his block or the tournament. But many times that's due to the fact that he's mostly main eventing against top talent. And when you're given that extra time and spotlight, it's easy to do that. Eagles is a guy who does get main events, but is more often on the undercard, and he's maybe pushing whoever else is MVP worthy. He's pushing them to their limits while not being the most featured guy in the block. Mm-hmm. And that is a situation where, like, apples to apples, you put him in the same spots that Desperado does. I know he's not the superstar domestically with the audience that Despy is, but if you just want to talk about procuring the stars, you put him in the main event. We might be talking about the junior division in a different way than we currently do, honestly.
Yeah, and there is, I think, an interesting potential of doing him versus Vegeta in the finals and kind of telling that story. And there's some really compelling names for him to mix it up with in a semifinal format.
We always push for like same group finals, and it feels like the only time they really did that was with Okada and Nakamura so many years ago. And it's like, man, it would be fucking cool if you guys could do, even on a smaller scale, something like that again. Mm-hmm. But what I'd be calling for is for Eagles to beat Fujita, put him in his fucking place, and then give this kid something to chase, you know?
Yeah, that'd be fun. And yeah, as far as matches, I think I'd probably Despy or Ishimori, just with their recent rivalry, I think could be a lot of fun.
I'm going to say Jay. A hungry Jay looking to make his name against probably the best performer in the block. And also the chemistry they already have. That shit's going to fuck. Robbie, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming up next here, Daisuke Sasaki with his third entry, first in 14 years. His career best was 2-6 in 2012. And I saw a promo where Daisuke said that he is going to New Japan to win the IWGP Junior title, and he is not going back to DDT unless he has the title.
Wrestlers lie, you know?
Yeah.
Terry Funk retired a bunch of fucking times, and he kept wrestling. So I don't expect, you know, it's not... 14 years ago, New Japan was trying to poach Daisuke Sasaki. He was a young, up-and-coming, promising talent from DDT, one of the chief rivals of a Konosuke Takeshita. He was like sort of in that camp. But 14 years have passed, and this guy has seen better days. You know, when he first got announced, I was like, can someone give me some background on the guy? You know, let me know a little bit. And then I remembered, like, oh, I've seen him many times over the past few years, even in New Japan, but I couldn't even recall who he was. Just the name sounded familiar. But once I saw pictures of him, I was like,
that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen him on some of the produce shows. Remember when New Japan was doing that? I forget what the gimmick was called, but they were featuring like local talents in the opening matches.
I think Frontier Zone, something like that.
Yeah, I think he did a Frontier Zone match. He's done many of those produce shows for the juniors, like for Hiromu and Desperado. So he's been around. And I don't think, obviously, New Japan is scouting the guy. I've been told that there were many other DDT juniors that you would have hoped for to be put in this spot. And, you know, we wound up with Daisuke Sasaki. I have been informed, though, he's good for one or two really solid, great matches a year when he's with the right person and has the right motivation. I don't know that this tournament is going to elicit that, but one can hope, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully he can produce something that's entertaining, but I don't really see him as a semifinalist. I think an 8 points is probably his max, but yeah, hopefully things are intriguing for him.
I mean, on the one hand, you know, there's the idea that the sickos, we want every match to be G1 quality with high flying and just incredible, you know, and that would be ideal. And I'm not even complaining about that. But if you can't have that and you do want to spice things up, bringing in outsiders and, you know, you're trying to keep things fresh, Sasaki does bring a different look, a different style. There is some House of Torturism there, and it is going to be interesting to see how that brushes up against Sho and Kanemaru. But he brings a different flavor. You know, he is more of a hardcore guy, similar to what they have in the A block with Jun Kasai, maybe to a lesser extent. I know he's not going to be working death matches, but he'll be bringing a different element. And, you know, you always run when you want to bring in outsiders. There's always the element of the politics of it all. Like, who can afford to take losses and how are we going to balance all this shit out? And this is a guy that clearly will be totally fine taking losses. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to hurt anything. And unfortunately, sometimes that's what you need, is someone who, you know, freshens things up, keeps it fun and exciting, isn't really a real player, but can afford to take the losses. And that's kind of the trade-off for not getting a top tier talent from DDT.
Yeah. As far as matches for him, I'd probably, maybe the Despy match.
Yeah, I think anybody that's adept at the outside brawling, that is one where you can envision what that might look like. Because everybody else, you're like, I don't know what that's going to be like. I if he's smart, he will do. What was the? I know I'm blanking on the name, but who was the boxy dude a couple of years ago?
Super Juniors.
Yeah, it was. Fuck. The name is on the tip of my tongue. It wasn't El Lindemann. It was Yamato.
Oh yeah,
No.
yeah. What
Was it Yamato?
I think so.
Oh my God, I'm gonna look after we get done with this, but like, you know, not to say that he doesn't do that in his home promotion, but whoever that was like doing the thing where he makes himself totally square and everything, that got over for the tour and was sort of like one of the big talking points. Same thing with like Ninja Mac, who, you know, really became viral doing the you know, the ninja special into the handsprings down the aisle. If he can find something, because he's not winning, you know, so do yourself a favor and come up with a gimmick that can be quasi viral that people can share before, you know, TV Acai, DCMA, you know, blocks them or whatever. But somebody who can like do something that people will be able to connect with, because it's not like it's going to be classic matches and it's not going to be a points total, but it's going to be something where it's like, oh yeah, he's the goofy guy. Like when Sami Callihan was making out with everybody in World Tag League, something like that shit.
Yeah. Make yourself stand out.
Mao.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That was his name. Yeah.
And I remembered it without even looking it up.
Nice.
Came to me.
All right. Well, second to last here, we have Jacob Austin Young from United Empire with his debut entry. And I guess we can kind of lump on the other competitor together as well. Another debut entry, I think it's Hayo from Dragon Gate in his first tournament.
I've said this many times before on the show. I am not the connoisseur of extensive pro resu that I once was, especially with how accessible everything has become and how busy our schedule and lives have become over the years. So do I know who Hayo is? No. I don't like that his theme song sounds like they're just saying yo over and over again because we already have yo in this tournament. All the same, he's trained by Dragon Gate. There seems to be some excitement behind him. I don't know if I was Dragon Gate, if I'd be fucking sending him over here, considering everything that's gone on with Dragon Daya, but you know, Dragon Daya, like we thought he was signed. That was like what you know, guys that you can kind of count on to have accurate reporting have said, and then it's turning out that maybe things are in flux. We'll see what happens there, but you know, Dragon Gate, I don't know if I'd be working with New Japan considering the poaching rumors that existed out there, but all the same, they got him here. I'm sure it'll be good. He's probably not going to win any matches. He's going to, you know, I don't even think he'll win one, honestly.
Really?
Probably not. They didn't have Dragon Daya win any the first time, I believe, if I recall.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, you've got a total unknown in Hayo. For me, I'm sure there's some people that are listening that have seen him, but I'm not one of them, so I can't speak on it. And then you've got Jacob Austin Young, a guy who we have seen extensively, especially of recent couple years. And then even going back to the Strong days. And he has grown immensely. He's got a great story going behind him. This not only being part of United Empire, which is in the midst of a transition phase, but he's always wanted to be in this tournament. I think he's the same age as the tournament, he said in certain backstage comments, and so it's sort of like a destiny. He's maybe not as established as Robbie X, but he's in a similar position this year to where Robbie was last year, except Jacob Austin Young has the benefit of being more considered a New Japan guy. Even if he's not as established, he's a roster member, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that he's come along a lot. I know we were kind of hard on him when he first came in and just kind of feeling like a Jag level talent, but I feel like he's really has improved over the last year and has been looking really good in these multi-man and tag matches. And I thought, he looked really good in the tag challenge with him and Akira against Sweet Boys. And so, yeah, with him, I think there is a chance for him to go a little bit more with him, especially if you want him and Akira to challenge again for the tag titles later this year. You might want to have him look really good in this tournament. So, I mean, I don't see him getting a ton of points, but I could see him ending with a decent score. And then Hayo, not super familiar with his work, like he's similar to you. And I know Dragon Gate guys are kind of known for their speed, and there's a unique styling there. So hopefully, that he can kind of bring that to this block. I feel like that this block desperately needs that kind of fresh energy with a lot of the more veteran guys who have wrestled each other a bunch of times in this block. I think this will be a fresh, exciting thing here.
Because a parity-based block requires a couple of guys to be far below them in order to balance things out. That's probably what Jacob Austin Young and Hayo will be doing. I think Jacob Austin Young will be more successful kayfabe standing. He'll have more points. What I'm counting on is maybe a big upset surprise victory for him. That's sort of going to be the establishing thing. But these two guys should be the most hungry in the block and the ones who are looking to maximize their minutes beyond anybody else. And I'll expect more opportunity to be given to Jacob Austin Young and him being the guy that's able to capitalize on that. Similar, like I said, I think there's very similar comparison points to Robbie X last year to where JAY is here, except he might even have more vested interest.
Yeah, and I think it's a great potential opportunity to do something with him and get him heated up for a potential another tag title shot. And he's part of United Empire. That feud is on the rise. So I think that, there's a lot to do here for him. And if I'm him, I'm putting my working boots on every night, and I'm trying to, really steal a show every night and show what I'm made of and really try to break out on this thing.
And he's white. And that doesn't matter anymore. So then in the junior division, the long, lengthy lineage of white, successful Twinkie men. And, he's right there with them. So, in alignment.
Yeah, the junior title, the wider the better in that division. So,
absolutely. Eddie Guerrero, most failingest challenger ever because he's brown. But white guys, Prince Devitt, Fergal, Omega, let's fucking get it.
Osprey,
all of them. JAY, he's next. Watch him win this shit before Fujita.
Well, Vegeta's already got one, so.
No, he didn't win the junior title.
Oh, you meant just a title? I thought you meant the tournament. Yeah.
No, not the tournament. I'm talking about the strap. Dog.
Oh, man. As far as matches, I think probably for JAY, probably Eagles. For Hayo, probably Despy.
I got for Jacob Austin Young, I got Yo because I think he's gonna beat fucking Yo, and I can't wait for that to occur. For Hayo, I don't know. Yo, see Yo versus Yo.
We had a few questions here. Nikki Afro says, do you view the BOSJ blocks as unbalanced? Personally, A block seems stacked compared to B block, with A block also having the 2 or 3 I would consider favorites, Wato, Fujita, and Akira.
Yeah, I don't disagree there. I don't have much more to add beyond that. I think that's a pretty accurate layout of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I am more excited for A block.
Same, yeah. Les Commission 7252, what's the crazy percentage that we have an all white boy finals because I have Akira and Robbie X in the finals this year. Also a finals with an Italian versus an Englishman.
While we always appreciate you listening to the show and sending in your comments, and oftentimes good questions, but less commission 7252, you're often wrong. And this is another one of those times. We will not be seeing an all white man finals for Super Juniors. They've done it one time ever, and it was it was Prince Devitt versus not Chris Sabin, Alex Shelley. And if I recall, they had to change the booking last minute due to like somebody got injured.
Hurt. Yeah,
someone got hurt and Alex Shelley had to fill in. Otherwise, it wasn't even going to happen in the first place, you know? And in that situation, we were at a point where Prince Devitt was being pushed through as the leader of the Bullet Club and undefeated so he could go to the G1 and start challenging for titles. Do you see either one of your two applicants being in the Prince Devitt Bullet Club leader role? I don't see that happening. For that reason, I'm going to call bullshit.
Yeah, it's still New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think it makes only happen once. I think they're going to want to get at least one domestic guy through the semis into the finals. So yeah, I think Akira or Robbie X could get to the finals, but not both of them. His next question: who will be the workhorse in each block?
I think who I've laid out in both blocks. I think that's looking like probably Robbie Eagles in B and Francesco Akira in A.
Yeah, with I think Robbie X is a close second in A.
And again, I would love for them. It's not impossible that they semifinal against one another. I don't think it's the most likely, but that match would fucking rule.
Yeah. Death Triangle 120. Who do you think is a dark horse in the tournament?
Daiki Nagai.
Yeah, I mean that's
the most unlikely dark horse, but I don't want to pretend like it's not entirely. We're doing some crazy shit because we see ace potential in this kid, you know?
Right. Especially if they do end up graduating him and want to give him a little bit more of a rocket pack. Like there could be some interesting things for his future in this tournament. Next question's from Rambo Slam Pig. Do you think this year's BOSJ is going to be an attempt to crown Vegeta as the focal point of the division, or did that ship sail after last year and we are on to Akira or someone else this year?
Because Doki is so heelish, it seems to beg for the most baby face-ish top, young generation guy to be his, foil. It does feel like Fujita fits that bill more so than anybody else right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we mentioned earlier, I feel like Vegeta's a guy you want to continue to push and elevate and get him to a top tier status and be the eventual ace of the division. I think a guy like Akira is going to have a great tournament, a great year, but depending on what they're doing there, he might not get through. And again, we've had a lot of white guys winning tournaments already this year and titles. Do you want, as much as we all love Akira, Akira is somebody I always say each year is a potential to win. Like, do you want to, have, New Japan Cup white boy, now a Super Junior white boy, and, kind of not push the domestic talent?
I don't like the way you keep saying white boy. It sounds derogatory. I think this is a psyop. We're going to keep pushing foreigners to win titles and tournaments in order to give a great feeding line to Shota Umino as he's going through the G1. And he's like, I'm tired of these fucking outsiders winning all this shit, coming to our country, taking our jobs. We need to build a wall. That's the character Tsuji's going to take on, or I'm sorry, Umino's going to take on to win the G1 this year. So
we got to make this country great again. Oh my gosh. Rambo's also asked, is Nick Wayne's theme song a certified low-key banger after all?
I'm sure I've heard it before, but there's only one aspect of his entrance that still stand out to me in my memories. It's not the song, and it's not Nick Wayne.
Kip Sabian?
It's not Kip Sabian, and it's not Christian.
Oh man,
I couldn't pick that song out from a lineup if I heard it today, right now, this moment. I would know.
Well, it says its name over and over again. Call me Nick Wayne. Ding, 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 ding.
I don't. That doesn't do anything for me, man.
I like it. I think it slaps. So yeah, looking forward to hearing that throughout the tour. His last question: which outsider do you think will have the best overall showing in BUSJ in terms of kayfabe? What about in terms of overall performance?
Kayfabe could either be Jun Kasai or Nick Wayne, depending on the politics and depending on fan reception. In terms of, in-ring actual performance, I think Valiente Jr. is going to be that standout guy.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I think, Nick Wayne has the opportunity and the right opponents to stand out, but yeah, it'll probably end up being Valiente that takes that spot there. Wukong 901, what match are you looking forward to the most for BUSJ? Watto versus Teton got me locked.
I don't know that I have. That's the problem. Okay, and this is what I was mentioning earlier, where it's like this feels like a gift, but all the same, do I need to see it as a punishment? Because while there's a great talent lineup and the blocks look decent, there's almost no surefire match that I am just dead set on anticipating right now. There's nothing on that piques my interest to that level right now, and that's my honest answer. I could tell you, like, looking at the charts, I could be like, okay, well, this one sounds the best, but the reality is there's nothing that's like getting my juices going.
Yeah, it's not like when you saw like Will Ospreay versus Bandito as a potential matchup coming up.
Well, even like let me give you an example. Like if I knew Desperado and Akira were in the same block again, and the history there, something like that. There's not even something like that. There's nothing that I'm looking at and I'm just like, oh shit, that's can't miss.
Right. I think there's going to be a lot of very good matches, some great matches, and there might end up being matches that end up being, wow, yeah, that totally knocked our socks off. But yeah, as of today, looking at it, yeah, there's not one match where I'm like, this could be the match of the tournament. I think there's a lot of potential matchups here that could get to that level, but it's not clear right now. And the next question here from Death Triangle 720: do you see the BOSJ winner getting their shot at Dominion again, or will they put it on another non-big show?
I think that history has shown it was a mistake to do that title shot on the non-big show, but I don't know they're going to learn from that mistake, because the trend has been to isolate this division on its own.
Yeah, and I feel like in years past, when they do the Dominion announcements, they'll at least say the finals or the winner of Super Juniors will get a shot as a champion at Dominion, and they did not say that. So that is not a good sign to me that this match will end up on Dominion. So I could see it's probably going to happen on the road to G1 and one of the Corkins there, instead of utilizing a big show for that. Well, that's it for our overall preview of the tournament. And then we got the first 3 nights of the tournament coming up. So Thursday, May 14th, we'll kick off in Cork and Hall. We'll have all block matches: Ishimori versus Jacob Austin Young, Kanemaru versus Sho, Taguchi versus Nagai, Yo versus Hayo, Robbie X versus Nick Wayne, Kushida versus Robbie Eagles, Teton versus Master Wato, Daisuke Sasaki versus El Desperado in a semi-main event, and Francesco Akira versus Kosei Fujita.
Opening night, Cork and Hall. I can't help but notice, but many of the matches where we're like, hey, this is one of the most anticipated for these guys. It's already happening on the first night. Sort of be expected. You do plan to see some upset surprise victories the first couple nights. So put that on your docket. But it looks like this might be one of the best tournament matches or tournament nights of the entire tour.
Yeah, and upsets. I could see Hayo beating Yo. I can see Daisuke Sasaki beating Desperado. Potentially, who knows? Maybe Jacob Austin can get a win over Ishimori. But yeah, there'll definitely be some upsets on this night. I can see Teton getting his win back from Master Wato from the finals. But yeah, overall, this looks like a pretty good opening night.
The main event's going to be hard for anybody to outperform, and that's going to set the stage and the tone for the rest of the tournament. Yeah. Fujita and Akira.
Then night 2 will be happening Saturday, May 16th from Esforta Arena, Hayochi. We got the show open up with Valiente Jr. versus Daiki Nagai, Ryusuke Taguchi versus Master Wato, Yo versus Jacob Austin Young, Robbie X versus Francesco Akira, Daisuke Sasaki versus Kushida, Jun Kasai versus Teton, Robbie Eagles versus Sho, Nick Wayne versus Kosei Fujita, and the main event will be Taiji Ishimori versus El Desperado.
Young Guns and Valiente Jr. and Daiki Nagai lock it up in the opener of the evening, and then that semi and main event, Wayne and Fujita, Ishimori and Desperado. Those are expected to be very good matches.
Yeah. And then night 3, Sunday, May 17th. This will be from Yoyogi National Gymnasium number 2. We got A block action. Will be Teton versus Daiki Nagai. Then Kanemaru versus Jacob Austin Young. Ryusuke Taguchi versus Valiente Jr. Kushida versus Sho. Akira versus Nick Wayne. Daisuke Sasaki versus Hayo. Robbie X versus Master Wato. Taiji Ishimori versus Yo. Jun Kasai versus Kosei Fujita, and the main event will be El Desperado versus Robbie Eagles.
I think Eagles Desperados, again, one of the most anticipated matches. Seeing Eagles so high up in the card is an encouraging sign. And I talked about this. Jun Kasai, he'll get some higher end, matches.
And some main event spot here, yeah.
And him and Fujita, real man's match.
Yeah. I bet that man's gonna get chopped up. Definitely also on 20 says with BOSJ Night seemingly having no undercard matches, do you think the heavyweight side of talent may appear at other companies for a little detour?
Possibly. I mean, I haven't heard about anything that's well known or prominent, but that's always possible. It's also a good time for them to just take some respite and rest.
Yeah. Guys are getting hurt left and right. They're all banged up. Yeah, they could use a little downtime. All right, Josh. Well, how about you run us through the news, and we can get ready to wrap this show up.
Yeah. So first bit of news here: Hiroyoshi Tenzan has announced his retirement, which will be coinciding with the G136 finals on August 15th, 2026. We had a couple questions here from Habrida Valoria. I don't even know how to pronounce this name.
I think it's HP Brad Valoria.
Okay. HP Brad Valoria. With Tenzan's retirement coming up, which matches of his are your favorite? I know you've got a too many to choose from, Jeremy. So.
Yeah, honestly, no. For me, I caught Tenzan on the downswing of his career. I haven't really. I'm sure we've watched some stuff and recommended matches, but like nothing really stands out to me as like a favorite Tenzan match.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple. Him versus Jun Akiyama in the G1 finals. We reviewed that several years ago. It's one of the best. Him and Kawada in All Japan is a fucking crazy battle. He had several matches with Kojima, but I think the one that is notable is the February match from 2005 for that's the one for the Triple Crown. That one is really, really actually it's for both titles, and that's probably they almost go to the hour-long draw. That's one that's like the most famous between them. There's a bloodbath between him and Goto towards the tail end of 2007-ish, I believe. And then the last one I would mention is him and Ishii in Tenzan's final G1. I'm sure there's other. Him in the G1 finals in 2007 with Tanahashi is also blow away. So, I mean, he's got several G1 finals that are just standout. Yeah. We'll talk more about Tenzan as we go.
Yeah.
The next question, General Dadnan says, with Tenzan retiring, he seems to have been a fairly influential mentor to a lot of the roster, many of them using Tenzan-style maneuvers like the TTD, Mongolian Chop, etc. Can you talk a bit about his wrestling style and why it might be so influential with the Dojo Boys? And you know what? Honestly, this is a great question. I personally feel, especially since we're pushing up on time, it's probably better served to talk about that as we get closer to that retirement, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe we can find some guests that could be great to really speak into that too as well.
Wow, you got me. Former New Japan and Stardom talents Tangaloa, Jeff Cobb, Kairi Hojo, and Kana have all left WWE as of this week. So big exodus going on. I don't know that we'll see any of them return, but
I
be
know.
aware.
Could be ready for some Tangaloa, might be coming back.
Last week we joked about the reported name for Evil being Nox Raijin, but it now seems to be, now that Evil has debuted, they're calling him Naraku. So that's going to be his name in NXT, Naraku. And it is being rumored that Nox Raijin copyright is actually for Hiromu as he's about to come in. So TNA Slammiversary was going to go head-to-head with Forbidden Door in June. They have announced an earlier start time to avoid going head-to-head with AEW New Japan. Finally, in the news, June 19th, there is the Fantascomania Mexico card, and it has been announced, the full card. The World Tag Team titles, Angel de Oro and Diablo Roja will defend against Sonata and Dick Togo. CMLL Japan Championship, India Sue versus Rina. She'll defend that title against Rina. Templario, Mascara Dorada, and Neon will take on the Unbound Companies, Robbie X, Taiji Ishimori, and Titan. Tiger Mask 4 in his Mexico retirement match. He will be teaming with Blue Panther and Mystico to take on Averno, Black Tiger, and Volador Jr. Atlantis Jr. will go one-on-one with El Phantasmo, your semi-main event. Ultimo Guerrero, Gran Guerrero, will team to take on Konosuke Takeshita and Hechicero. And then you'll also see Valiente Jr., Maxstar, and Futuro versus Yutani, who's been rumored to be looked at as a future signee for New Japan, along with Okamura and Shomakato. I don't know that this is the full card. I actually was mentioning like semi-main events, and I don't know that we have the order here, but this is what's been announced thus far.
Nice. I know we have some off-topic questions, but we're running up on time, and I am running out of gas right now. So
we will push those one more week, and then next week I will do less jaw-jacking at the start of the show. We'll focus on those questions.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll wrap it up here, and next week we'll be back to review the opening nights of Best of Super Junior 33 and cover all this news. So remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up at patreon.com/KIStrongstyle. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media on X and Blue Sky. Follow us at KIStrongstyle, at socialsuplex, at Gmail Donovan, at YB_Josh and Liger. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/socialsuplex. On Reddit, I'm Quote Black Guy and Josh Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we're at Social Suplex. Join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us. And other wrestling fans, email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com, and check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio with Rich Latta and James Boyd. All things elite with Gordon Austin. Imps, AEW Adventure Wrestling Art with Chris Things. The AEW Match Guide with Sir Sam Brown. Tone Talk with Ali and Leah. The Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. And Joshing Around with Tim and Eric. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
It's your bum.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.